Boys are back at it today as the Fighting Illini baseball crew battles a very good Indiana State team in Lexington, Kentucky, at the start of the NCAA tournament regional baseball action. The news is a service of scholarships.com. Join scholarships.com free to find accurate and vetted scholarships personalized for your student. That's scholarships.com. A check of traffic and weather is on the way next on AM 560.
If you listen to the mainstream media and the Democrats, you'd think it was a sin to be black and conservative. Well, John Anthony blows up that perception every week on Black and Right. Join John tomorrow afternoon at 4 when he pushes back against the left and its regressive, progressive agenda that tries to dictate how people should think or feel about politics. Listen to Black and Right tomorrow afternoon at 4, right here on AM 560. The Answer.
Getting quality employees to fill positions in your company is essential, but finding those people can be a major hassle, unless you use ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter makes finding quality people a breeze. And right now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. With ZipRecruiter, one click sends your job to hundreds of top job sites. But more than that, ZipRecruiter's advanced technology identifies the candidates with the skills you need, sends you a list of great matches to review, then actively invites them to apply for your job. And the results speak for themselves. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. That's right, the first day. Now you can focus on your business and let ZipRecruiter do the work finding the best people for you. See for yourself. Experience the ease, efficiency, and power of ZipRecruiter for free. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Parents, grandparents, you might want to be sitting down because this is amazing news. Imagine the student in your family not asking you for money to pay for college, or better yet, not getting into years and years of debt. How's this possible? Scholarships.com, a trusted and widely used scholarship platform that helps your student find scholarships and navigate the financial aid process. Get help to pay for college through a personalized list of scholarships that your student actually qualifies for. Better yet, every scholarship is vetted to ensure accuracy. And now the best part, drum roll please, it's absolutely free. Go to scholarships.com today. Both students and parents can join for free. And within minutes, receive your list of personalized scholarship matches. Check out the wealth of information and resources available at no cost. And read the fantastic reviews from other scholarship winners. Scholarships.com has helped over 23 million students and families find scholarships to help pay for college. And will help you too. Join scholarships.com today for free. That's scholarships.com.
It is 5:10. Let's get an update on the roads. We do that, of course, in the Team Hochberg Traffic Center. Edens, Kennedy, Ike, and Stevenson are off and on time. I-80, though, resurfacing work, construction in a right lane eastbound between Richards and Briggs. You've got big delays on the CTA Red Line today because of police activity right at 79th. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy starts next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast is a service of Allstate. Some people just know the best rate for you is a rate based on you. Visit allstate.com or call for a quote today. Latest on your weekend weather, here is AM 560 Steve Williams.
A bit warmer today, partly sunny with a high at 80. Clouds tonight, a shower toward dawn, low 62. Cloudy, cooler, rain, thunderstorm for tomorrow morning. Shower in spots for the afternoon. High tomorrow at 67. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560, The Answer.
Right now, we have mostly cloudy skies, 50 at O'Hare. Your next news update is at 5:30. Chicago's Morning Answer starts next on AM 560, The Answer.
Balance of Nature's fruits and veggies supplements, changing the world one life at a time.
My name is Bob Corbin. I'm 55 years old, and I like to tackle life every single day. My life's never boring. I make sure of that, whether we're gardening, back at the pond fishing, running a tractor and moving dirt, playing rock and roll music. There's always something to do around here. I've been taking Balance of Nature for about 5 years. I feel absolutely phenomenal. Balance of Nature helps me feel better. It's just that simple.
Make a splash into summer with Balance of Nature supplements. Go to balanceofnature.com and sign up as a new preferred customer to get 35% off your first order, plus a free fiber and spice supplement with free shipping and our money-back guarantee. That's 1-800-246-8751. Hurry, this offer is only available while supplies last. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751 and get this limited time offer by using discount code CHICAGO.
At Catholic Cemeteries of Chicago, we honor traditions, celebrate faith, and cherish memories. Take an active role in establishing your legacy for future generations by pre-planning your final arrangements today. Alleviate your loved ones of future financial burden. Lock in today's prices and take advantage of interest-free financing and no hidden fees. Visit CatholicCemeteriesChicago.org or call 708-236-5490 to schedule a free consultation today.
Something amazing is happening when power outages strike. Teams are powering through them. That's because CDW Solutions architects are building more resilient IT and electrical infrastructures with Schneider Electric. With EcoCare remote monitoring services and 24/7 support, your organization can do more than keep the lights on. Schneider Electric and CDW make amazing happen. Learn more at cdw.com/Schneider Electric.
This is a red alert for hard-working Americans who are tired of seeing their freedoms and retirement savings threatened by the globalist agenda. Wealth Protection Research is on a mission to find whistleblowers who are exposing these schemes. Real patriotic financial warriors like Jim Rickards and Porter Stansberry. They're not afraid to tell it like it is and fight back against the system. Now, with the 2024 election storming our way, your IRA and your 401k may be in the crosshairs. That's why we've compiled our 3 favorite ideas into our Election Protection Report. You definitely won't hear any of these in the mainstream news. Get your free copy of our Election Protection Report now. Just text TRUTH to 76626. Plus, today you'll also get a free gold investment kit from our sponsor, Augusta Precious Metals. Text TRUTH to 76626 now and get the free report and gold investment kit. The fight for your financial freedom is on. Text the word TRUTH to 76626.
Standard text and data rates may apply.
Welcome to Face the Music, sponsored by Fox Valley Coins in Naperville. Today's guest, President Donald J. Trump.
Make it fast. I'm in a court recess.
So, Mr. Trump, what did you learn during your first term in office?
Inflation is bad. Very bad. Unless you're overestimating the crowd size at a rally. You should also surround yourself with loyal people, tremendous people. You know, some say I am the greatest of all time. I should be on Mount Rushmore.
Well, good luck with that, sir. Remember, Face the Music is brought to you by the great Americans at Fox Valley Coins on Route 59 in Naperville, Illinois. They are the leader of buying and selling old coins and paper money, as well as all forms of gold and silver. Mr. Trump, do you have a final message for Joe Biden?
Broken Joe, you're fired.
Face the Music was sponsored by the great Americans of Fox Valley Coins on Route 59 in Naperville. No real or artificial intelligence was used in the making of this ad.
Celebrity voices are impersonated.
This is Carol Platt-Liebau for townhall.com. It was an embarrassing weekend for Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg. On Face the Nation, he was confronted with some damning facts. Despite having received $7.5 billion for electric vehicle charging, the Federal Highway Administration has only produced a grand total of 7, maybe 8, EV chargers in 3 years. That's a far cry from the 50,000 per year necessary to reach the administration's goal of 500,000 chargers by 2030. The waste is particularly galling given Americans' declining interest in buying electric cars. According to an April Gallup poll, only 9% are even seriously considering purchasing an EV. Secretary Buttigieg claims that everything is on track and just fine. Perhaps that's true for those on the receiving end of $7.5 billion of taxpayer largesse. For the rest of us, this looks like nothing more than another government green grift.
Quick delivery service. What do you need delivered today?
Hi, I'm trying to work through a last-minute to-do list for my boss. Can you deliver a hard drive to the Loop in Chicago?
We can deliver that today.
Okay, can you deliver 20 boxes to a client in Rockford?
We can deliver that today.
Can you deliver 12 pallets of tile to our customer in Naperville?
We can deliver that today.
Can you deliver a large envelope to Northbrook?
We can deliver that today.
Oh my gosh, I think my water just broke. Can you?
We cannot deliver that.
Quick Delivery Service delivers your package no matter the size. More than just a messenger service, Quick Delivery Service is a messenger and trekking service that can also provide scheduled routes for your daily delivery or your air shipment. Trucks are equipped to handle the load and provide ground-level service for same-day delivery. The Quick Delivery Service team of safe, licensed professionals can provide quick door-to-door service for your special delivery. QuickDelivery.com. That's QuickDelivery.com. We deliver that today. But we don't deliver this.
Recent events have reminded us how fragile the stock market and your life savings can be. What would happen to you if you lost 30, 40, 50% or more in the market? It could likely destroy your quality of life and impact your plans for the future. Let this be a wake-up call to sit down and review your financial situation. Take control of your future today and call Wealth Management Group 833-WMG-PLAN or visit investwithwmg.com. All investing involves risk, including loss of principal. Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA SIPC.
Portions of the following show may be pre-recorded.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
That the defendant, Donald J. Trump, is guilty of 34 counts of falsifying business records in the first degree to conceal a scheme to corrupt the 2016 election. And while this defendant may be unlike any other in American history, we arrived at this trial and ultimately today at this verdict in the same manner as every other case that comes through the courtroom doors, by following the facts and the law and doing so without fear or favor.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line, 64636DA, turnkey.pro text line. Of course, take your calls with reactions and suggestions of what comes next or what you would like to see come next from Trump, from the Republican Party, from the American people. That was, of course, a Soros DA, Alvin Bragg, at his post-jury verdict press conference, talking about the heroic public servants, comparing himself to a modern-day Thomas Dewey. This was something.
In the 1930s, District Attorney Thomas Dewey ushered in the era of the modern, independent, professional prosecutor. For now nearly 90 years, dedicated professionals in this office have built upon that fine tradition.
Thomas Dewey, Republican. But anyway, there's been some fits and starts over the past 9 decades, clearly not on the high side of the Thomas Dewey standard with Alvin Bragg. Trump reacted to the verdict thusly.
By a conflicted judge who was corrupt. It's a rigged trial, a disgrace. They wouldn't give us a venue change. We were at 5% or 6% in this district, in this area. This was a rigged, disgraceful trial. But the real verdict is going to be November 5th by the people. And they know what happened here, and everybody knows what happened here. You have a Soros-backed DA, and the whole thing, we didn't do a thing wrong. I'm a very innocent man, and it's okay. I'm fighting for our country. I'm fighting for our Constitution. Our whole country is being rigged right now. This was done by the Biden administration in order to wound or hurt an opponent, a political opponent. And I think it's just a disgrace. And we'll keep fighting. We'll fight till the end, and we'll win, because our country's gone to hell. We don't have the same country anymore. We have a divided mess. We're a nation in decline, serious decline. Millions and millions of people pouring into our country right now from prisons and from mental institutions, terrorists, and they're taking over our country. We have a country that's in big trouble. But this was a rigged decision right from day one, with a conflicted judge who should have never been allowed to try this case, never. And we will fight for our Constitution. This is long from over. Thank you very much.
So Trump is undaunted, but are you? 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line.
I honestly felt like crying when I heard the verdict. I was not expecting it. Well, I wasn't. And now Joe Biden could do what Joe Biden wants, and that's label him convicted felon.
Not in Illinois, though. In Illinois, of course, we know Trump is a justice-impacted individual.
Yes!
Just another victim of the system in Illinois.
And that's our T-shirt idea. Illinoisans, Trump, justice impacted.
Again, we talked a lot about this over the last several weeks of the trial, and then after closing arguments on Tuesday, you knew from the outset that it was more likely than not that he would be convicted just based on the jury pool, in addition to all that the Honorable Judge Merchant did to skew the trial in the prosecution's favor, right up through the 55-page jury instruction. We can get into those details. So it is sort of interesting. I think people knew that at the outset. We talked about that at the outset, but then when it finally comes, you're a bit taken aback. I guess there was a belief that maybe there would be one brave soul. Maybe the two would provide some stewardship of their fellow jurors as it comes as it pertained to matters of law. But in the end, basically, it turned out to be what you more or less had to expect it would be based on the political nature of the entirety of this show trial that was put on and the venue in which it was put on.
And you know who was really affected? Jonathan Turley, who was in the courtroom. He spoke with Fox afterward, and he just seemed visibly shaken by this. And one thing that he said, this isn't the only court. This was just the first court. Because he's going to appeal this process, but it's not going to take, it's going to be 2025 before that happens.
Well, I mean, there's obviously this will be appealed and probably concurrently both to the appellate court in New York. And I would assume they would at least try to pick up on that novel legal argument that we discussed earlier in the week from a former law clerk for Chief Justice Warren Burger that Mark Levin had posted, suggesting that under the Supreme Court's common writs power, there is a path to at least attempt an appeal, again, make this argument, attempt an appeal directly from state court to the Supreme Court under a theory that Donald Trump's due process rights were violated in the context of a presidential election. So we'll see what they do. Obviously, they're convening and gathering to move these appeals forward as quickly as they can.
And Trump's going to have a press conference today at 11 a.m. outside the Trump Tower. And his sentencing is July 11th, in case you haven't heard, right before the RNC convention.
Live from Folsom Prison, Donald Trump delivers his acceptance speech at the RNC.
Even if they throw him in jail, which CNN was saying that's a possibility, we can play that bite later, I'd still vote for him.
Brian in St. John.
Hey, good morning. Obviously, to people like us, this is not a surprise. And people like us that have real jobs, the hardworking Americans of the country, we can't throw bricks and we can't riot and we can't loot and we can't make chaos. So my suggestion is, especially starting tomorrow with Pride Month, the only way they'll listen to us is if we all dedicate a 30-day boycott of any company that's flying the pride flag, and they can understand that maybe we do exist. The Petcos, the Chipotles, the Reeboks, all of them that are flying these flags, let's all dedicate a 30-day boycott of all of them to the best of our ability and show them we exist. That's all I got. Bye.
Thanks for the call, Brian. Mark, Southside.
Good morning, Dan and Amy. Yesterday, when Bragg had his press conference celebrating his victory, was he so excited that he slipped up and he said, "I did my job"?
No, he gave you the pro forma line that you expect. I did my job without fear or favor.
Yeah.
I mean, you can read into
He's
it.
a hero.
I did my job for Team Biden, but I mean, it was all the typical, all these dedicated public servants. Please don't call me a hero. It was all justice is served. No one is above the law. You got that. You got exactly what you would expect to get. All of the aphorisms to substantiate the process and the outcome. That's what you're going to get from the left. They are without shame, and they are without restraint. So they used whatever means was at their disposal to achieve their desired ends. That's what they do. And it's interesting because I think there's a lot of Americans that are still surprised at the lengths that the left will go to obtain or accrue political power. And here again, we have to have more scales falling from more eyes, just like we talked about with the model Hamas goons at college campuses. Oh, all of a sudden people understand that the college campuses are incubators of totalitarianism with a bunch of spoiled, bedwetting, mainly rich kids who are intemperate and intolerant and generally ignorant. When did that happen? Oh, and it started happening about 50 years ago. You just weren't paying attention. When did this happen? I mean, have you even paid attention for the last 8 years? When did this happen with respect to Trump and with respect to the left's use of state power and now the state power to imprison, the state power to deprive freedom in furtherance of their aims and against their political opponents only and primarily because they are their political opponents? When did this start? We're hearing a lot. Mary, Midway.
Oh, hi. I've been doing this pretty much since 2017 anyway, just kind of as a joke, and then it turned into kind of like a human study. I've been buying cases of Donald Trump wine. Well, it's actually called Trump wine. And the reaction of people, I could just write books. But anyway, I'm just doing this now for myself anyway. And, of course, being Midway Mary, you have to order it online because the looks you would get, nobody would carry it here in this neighborhood. But I'm going to get the one with the label on in big gold, beautiful gilded letters that says Trump. And I'm going to be so happy, and I think everybody should do that.
Thanks for the call,
Have you had
Mary.
Trump wine yet, Dan? No?
No.
Oh. They serve it at Mar-a-Lago. That's the only wine they serve there. And
it's probably the only place they serve it. Too bad Prisoner is taken as a name.
Oh.
Yeah, for wine.
For wine, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Little vino humor. Maybe
yes, try and make some of us laugh this morning because it's a dark day in America today.
Bill and Glen Ellen.
Yeah, I think that people who think that Trump is going to win on appeal are wrong.
Why?
It depends on who those judges were appointed by, where this takes place, and then if the Democrats should win in November and take the Senate and keep the White House, they are going to impeach Clarence Thomas and Alito. They've already signaled that through these press stories. And if they can't get them, then also they're going to pack the Supreme Court. So at every step of the process, Trump is going to be facing more and more Democrats in the court system. And you can bet they want to put him in prison for life. And then, as they've already signaled, they want to take his Secret Service protection away. And we all know why they want to do that. It's not just to be petty. They want some deranged Democrat to make an attempt on him. And this is just insane. And people should have woken up years ago, but now here we are. And it's just going to get worse and worse. And people who think that the courts are going to save Trump are wrong.
Thanks for the call, Bill. And we'll see, although you will take judicial notice of the fact that the New York Appellate Court overturned the conviction of Harvey Weinstein,
Yep.
who is not exactly a popular figure, and as well they should have because of improper testimony in that case. So we'll see, but it really doesn't matter between now and November 5th because it's not going to happen before November 5th, not at the state level, which is why the Supreme Court play is the most important one if there is a play to be made there. All right, coming up at 5:38, something Trump said and was repeated, of course, incessantly by GOP talking heads yesterday, is that the real verdict comes November 5th. The real verdict comes November 5th. Is that right? 5:38.
And later, President Trump, should he be remorseful during his sentencing? Will that affect his sentence? But now let's head into the newsroom. Here's Mike Scott.
5:31 on AM 560, The Answer. Donald Trump has now become the first American president to stand trial and be found
guilty in a criminal case. This morning, New York Republican Congresswoman Claudia Tenney joined Fox and Friends first with reaction.
This is a disgrace to the New York justice system, a disgrace as a New York lawyer to watch this complete attempt to find a verdict, not to find justice under our laws.
Sentencing for the former president will be July 11. Former President Trump met with reporters, slamming his conviction yesterday.
This was a rigged, disgraceful trial. The real verdict is going to be November 5th by the people. And they know what happened here, and everybody knows what happened here.
The Manhattan DA who brought the hush money case against Donald Trump says he did his job.
The 12 everyday jurors vowed to make a decision based on the evidence and the law, and the evidence and the law alone.
Alvin Bragg, Florida Senator Marco Rubio, late last night, was not a friend of that guilty verdict.
I think all over the world right now, they're watching news reports and they're saying, what America's turned into us, meaning these third world countries.
However, the judge does have discretion in this case to either reduce his sentence to a fine, probation, or supervision. Joint British-U.S. airstrikes targeting Yemen's Houthi rebels killed at least 16. The U.S. and Britain acknowledge carrying out the strikes. The German government says Ukraine can use their weapons that they have provided against attacks from positions over the Russian border. Also on Thursday, President Joe Biden gave Kyiv a green light to strike back with American weapons at Russian military assets targeting the country's second largest city this week. An Alabama inmate executed for the murders of an elderly couple, Jamie Ray Mills, found guilty of murdering an elderly couple in 2004, put to death by lethal injection. A woman who admitted helping her Chicago mother brutally kill a pregnant Chicago teen in 2019 is being sentenced to 30 years in prison. Desiree Figueroa was sentenced yesterday after pleading guilty in January. Embattled CTA President Dorval Carter defending himself against calls to resign. Speaking to a city council committee yesterday, Carter said demands for his ouster are part of the city's demands to bring down African American leaders. And the family of a man shot and killed by police in Elk Grove Village last December is suing. Jack Murray's family filed that wrongful death lawsuit against the village and 5 unnamed police officers. Cubs surrender a pair of runs in the bottom of the 8th in a 6-4 loss to Milwaukee. White Sox aim to avoid their 9th loss in a row when they visit the Brewers tonight. There will be a new team on HBO's Hard Knocks this summer, the Chicago Bears. Stanley Cup playoffs, Panthers outlast the Rangers 3-2 in Game 5 of the Eastern Conference Final at MSG. The news is a service of scholarships.com. Imagine the news that your college student doesn't have years and years of school debt. It's avoidable when you join scholarships.com free. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
November 2nd, 2020, marked the 100th anniversary of the first commercial radio broadcast. We're still here, and we're bigger and better than ever. You can still listen to us over this great radio station, but now there are no limitations. Your smartphone is now your smart radio. Listen to us online on the app, TuneIn.com, iHeartRadio, and Odyssey.com. Your smart speaker can find us too. With radio, there is no separation anxiety. We're always on. AM 560, The Answer.
Don, can you read this email for me?
Of course. Jeez, I wish they could do something for your eyesight.
Ugh, me too. But you heard what they said. There's nothing we can do.
When vision loss can't be corrected with glasses or surgery, and hope seems lost, turn to Spectrios Institute for Low Vision. Spectrios doctors specialize in the treatment of vision loss related to eye diseases, such as macular degeneration, glaucoma, and diabetic retinopathy. There is hope, supported by science with personalized rehabilitation plans, occupational therapies, and access technology at Spectrios. Talk to a patient service manager. They'll walk you through the program. Spectrios takes BCBS and Medicare insurance. They also have grants for qualifying patients and offer a Seeing is Believing children's outreach program. Go to spectrios.org, located in Wheaton in a building that says it all, the House of Hope. That's SPECTRIOS.org. Spectrios Institute, the head, heart, and eyes approach to better vision. Remember to keep Spectrios Institute a 501c in your estate or legacy planning.
Balance of Nature's fruits and veggies supplements, changing the world one life at a time.
I have a dog. Her name is Bailey. She has a lot of energy, so she requires me to take her on walks. I would recommend Balance of Nature to everyone. It really is an amazing product.
I feel full of life. My friends are like, don't you ever stop. I tell everybody about Balance of Nature. I feel like everybody ought to take them.
I've been taking Balance of Nature supplements for over 3 years. I feel better, and it's amazing.
Make a splash into summer with Balance of Nature supplements. Go to balanceofnature.com and sign up as a new preferred customer to get 35% off your first order, plus a free fiber and spice supplement with free shipping and our money-back guarantee. That's 1-800-246-8751. Hurry, this offer is only available while supplies last. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751 and get this limited time offer by using discount code CHICAGO.
Our communities deserve to have their tax dollars spent efficiently. All over Chicagoland, there is an increased need for vital projects like wetland improvements, enhancing water quality, or stormwater mitigation to protect homes against devastating floods. Too often, public officials find themselves at the mercy of outside advisors when planning, budgeting, and building these projects. And let's face it, they rarely meet deadlines or budgets, leaving our communities vulnerable. There's a better way forward. Control Point Engineering. At Control Point Engineering, we're more than just civil engineers. We're champions of quality and efficiency with over 40 years of hands-on experience. Teaming up with Earthworks Land Development, we're breaking down barriers and streamlining processes. Say goodbye to disjointed partnerships and hello to seamless collaboration. From conceptualization to construction, Control Point Engineering delivers everything you need in one unified package, saving you time and money. Visit ControlPointLLC.com today to learn about our successful projects all across Chicagoland. Again, that's ControlPointLLC.com.
Now there's a simple, easy, and effective way to clean your nose and protect your health. It's called Navage. Navage, available at Navage.com.
5:39. Let's check the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. Kennedy stop and go inbound Austin to Montrose. Dan Ryan. You've got delays as you roll in from 95th into the Burns Circle interchange. You're jammed up 95th up through 83rd. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. Now, your official Chicagoland weather forecast. Partly sunny and warmer today. Nice day for outdoors. High 80. Increasing amounts of clouds with a shower close to dawn. Low of 62. 51 right now. Your next news update is at 6. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560. The Answer.
This hourly segment is brought to you by In the Know with Wealth Management Group, hosted by Craig and Leslie Bolano Sunday mornings at 10. Learn more at investwithwmg.com.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy talking, of course, about the jury verdict in Manhattan yesterday, taking your calls with reaction. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line, 64636DA, turnkey.pro text line. I want to pick up on something that was said by Trump and his immediate reaction to the guilty verdict, and then repeated nonstop for the rest of the day yesterday on the cable news channels by GOP operatives and talking heads and talk show hosts. That the real verdict will be on November 5th. The real verdict will be on November 5th. Is that true? Do you agree with that?
312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line, 64636. Type in DA, then a quick comment.
Because I don't think that is nearly enough. And I don't even think that's actually the right reaction to what occurred in Manhattan.
What would you have done?
Well, I think you first need to understand what happened so that you calibrate your response appropriately. That line, the real verdict will be on November 5th, I mean, it sounds right. Yeah, we're going to get them at the ballot box, but are we? All of the suggestions that are being made, the world is looking at America and they're saying, oh, this is a banana republic. The country is looking at itself and saying, this is third world dictator stuff. This is Soviet show trial stuff, so on and so forth. But is that what's really happening? I mean, I know it's happening with us and most of the people who listen to this show. But this is sort of the other side of the coin of how thick is your bubble with respect to the left in 2016, who couldn't see the Trump presidential victory coming. No way. How well do we know the rest of the country? And frankly, the rest of the Western world. I mean, the idea, who is looking down their nose at America? I mean, in the sense that what is going on in the rest of the Western world? Exercises in constitutionally driven representative Republican government? Is that what's happening in the UK, France, Canada? I mean, come on. What are you talking about? We're just saying things. We're using politicians' words, and they belie what's really happening. We'll see you in November is basically what they're saying. Well, no. What we have to deal with right now, what just happened in Manhattan, you can't walk past that. And by the way, even a victory in November for Trump and Republicans, in my view, is an insufficient remedy for what happened in Manhattan. What happened in Manhattan has implications well beyond the election in November.
Right. It sets a precedent where if you want to take out your political opponent, you could change the rules and take them and charge them with a crime.
So
and find a jury in a red or blue state that'll do it.
So MAGA world for the last 8 years has had a tendency to assume there is a boomerang effect that's going to occur. It's never materialized. 8 years of lawfare that included, among other things, that Lavrenti Beria treason investigation hoax led by the FBI and CIA. 2 baseless impeachments. The reanimation of one civil trial and the invention of another civil trial to bankrupt Trump and collapse his business empire. And the coordination by the White House to push 2 state and 2 federal criminal prosecutions to brand him before the election and perhaps even imprison him during it. And I'm sorry, what was the revolt that I missed? In 2016, when we caught them sleeping, and they put up, as distasteful a candidate as you could possibly find. But then, so forget 2016 when we caught them sleeping. Then the ushering in this era of lawfare against Trump and, by extension, much of MAGA world. Pro-lifers, Catholics who attend the Latin Mass, nonviolent attendees to January 6th that were wandering around, escorted sometimes by Capitol Police, the nonviolent. And when did the revolt come? Nearly half, or maybe more than half, I think it's too close to call, of America believes the ends justify the means when it comes to destroying Trump and their political opponents generally. Mm-hmm. They have demonstrated little understanding of or interest in dangerous precedents, perhaps because they don't fear conservatives, perhaps in part because they don't care to look beyond the tips of their noses. They are insulated by money and the mediating civic and cultural institutions they dominate, as we've seen on college campuses. So this whole assuming the good sense and decency of the silent majority that is going to carry the day in November and beyond is waiting for Godot, in my view. If you want to revolt against this Jacobin ruling class, the revolt that people keep talking about, that's that you impeach and then we impeach. Did we impeach Joe Biden? One baseless impeachment will deserve another. That hasn't happened. And does it look like it's going to happen between now and November? You want a revolt against this Jacobin ruling class, then you have to take material actions to stoke it. Because it is not happening organically. It hasn't. So all of what I just described, and there's much more of it, that's sort of surface skimming. That's the obvious stuff. And what's the reaction? What's the response? More of it. It gets more and more aggressive. There's been no recession of the power grabs by the left, of the new and exciting ways, the new and exciting means they identify to advance their ends, regardless of the rule of law, regardless of common sense or decency. But we'll see you in November. The real verdict is November 5th. That's not nearly enough. And I got to tell you, I have grown completely inured to the cheap vengeance talk from talking heads like Megyn Kelly. Just so she's not the only one. I'm just using her as an example because she took to her popular podcast with all of her Today Show. It was Today Show, right?
Yeah, she was on the Today Show.
I know you raised her as a young girl into the woman she is today as your intern, Amy. But all her Today Show money, and now, all of a sudden, now she, several months ago, kind of sort of saw the light on the Lavender Bund and their push to mutilate children. And now she kind of sees, the lawfare and so on and so forth. She's typical. And so here's what she said. The whole, you better look out. I mean,
it's a before and after moment for America. What just happened today is a line we can't uncross. And these Democrats will rue the day they decided to use lawfare to stop a presidential candidate. I'm not talking about violence. I'm talking about tit for tat. You just wait, and it won't be Hunter Biden the next time. It's going to be Joe Biden. It could potentially still be Barack Obama. It could still potentially be Hillary Clinton. We're going to have to look at what the statutes of limitations are on the various crimes they surely committed. We're going to have to look at passing laws to revive those dead crimes, felonies or misdemeanors, so that those cases can be brought out of time. That's what may be in the interests of justice.
Rue the day, shaking her fist, and reanimate, and tit for tat.
Well, who's going to do that?
We are. Who's the we? I have no idea. I have no idea.
It's like, who's the they?
Yeah, Megyn Kelly. Yeah.
I mean, sounds good. Yeah, they did it to Trump, but who's going to do what and what crimes and what are we resurrecting?
So is the Today Show? Is that Today Show money that Megyn Kelly made when she wanted to be somebody? Is she donating it to Judicial Watch? Is she helping to underwrite ballot integrity programs, vote by mail programs? What's this we stuff? What are you doing except ruining the day, issuing edicts from the comfort of your microphone? And I mean, you could say I do the same thing, except, well, I'm actually involved in the political arena too, even though I have my own microphone that I can opine from. The left listens to those rue the day threats from people like Megyn Kelly and laughs. And you know what? So do I. So let's understand where we're at and what is required if you want to stoke this revolt. Yes, that crests on November 5th, but longer term than that. November 5th as a springboard to what? And who will be the we that Megyn Kelly and so many of these talking heads like to reference generically because they have no idea how to do so specifically? John at O'Hare, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Good morning, Dan and Amy. I have a question. During the procedure for the sentencing by this particular judge in the President Trump case, can he place President Trump under house arrest?
Yes.
You mean when? Now or as part of his sentence?
At the time of the sentencing.
Well,
yes.
Well, he.
Okay, so.
Well.
The question is, putting him under house arrest will limit his ability to be out and campaign across the country.
Right, and that's what the Democrats wanted. But I think they wanted more to label him convicted felon than put him in prison. But here's a CNN contributor who used to be a former DA in New York. She knows how this works. She said if he is not remorseful at his sentencing, he could go to jail or pick up trash.
Community service where he has to pick up trash on the subways. So could he do home arrest? He could do home arrest. Every option is on the table with a Class E felony like this. But I wanted to just put a perspective for people of what any other defendant, because I worked in the DA's office for about 30 years. I've seen hundreds of thousands of cases and sentences. And those are the factors that would have gone into that equation, and absolutely without a doubt any other defendant who was similarly situated to Donald Trump, who is not going to show remorse and who I am sure will push the bounds of the still remaining gag order after this. We'll see what happens, but anyone else in that position would get prison.
Jamie can go.
Yawn.
I wouldn't put it past this judge.
No, I would provoke the judge if I was Trump.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask you.
You want me to
How would you handle your sentencing hearing?
I'm not going to allocute to anything. Hey, Judge Merchan, you're a partisan hack. You shouldn't have presided over this case. Go make love to yourself. You want to throw me in prison? Throw me in prison. Do it. The whole for the Trump campaigning thing. Stop worrying about the Trump campaigning thing. Oh, he can't be on the trail. This is a TV and internet election. Every post that Trump makes on Truth Social, every move he makes, every breath he takes, excuse my sting, is going to be watched by all, is going to be covered, is going to be discussed. Trump, I mean, yes, the Trump rally in Wildwood, New Jersey, and in Bronx, and doing things like that is great, and it's also great fodder. I'm not saying him not campaigning is right or proper, or that he couldn't, add a little bit more value with some of these events. But I mean, that is not material to him winning or losing. People's opinions about Trump are not particularly hardened at this point. And they're kicking it around, knowing everything they know. The interesting thing is not that. I mean, yes, it'd be interesting if he was sentenced to prison time, which is very possible.
Yeah, 4 years.
What about these people? The people keep saying, I'm hearing from, again, all these, I've been in this prosecutor's office for this many years. So what? Many of these people are wildly unimpressive. What restraint have you seen from this crew? What? Oh, he's going to get community service. He's going to get probation. Why? I thought he's a threat to our democracy. He's a threat to our democracy. I mean, this is everything they say all the time. This is Jill Biden,
On The View.
On The View this week.
Can you imagine if we put any more Republicans on the Supreme Court? No. We will lose all of our rights.
Exactly. You can't have Trump. Trump takes away all of our rights. He ends our democracy. He'll never leave. Bill Maher saying that. And so
he'll rip up the Constitution, I keep hearing.
So why wouldn't you imprison him? The only thing that will be interesting and will be a factor in the decision they make is what they think is politically most advantageous. And it has nothing to do with Trump on the campaign trail, and it has everything to do with how public opinion shakes out in response to this guilty verdict over the next 5 weeks before the sentencing hearing and what they project the reaction will be. Because all this like trying to read the tea leaves. The American people aren't going to stand for this. There's going to be a reaction. This boomerang effect that everybody's so sure will happen, and yet it hasn't happened after everything that's happened. I'm not so sure, but what I do think is it's very volatile. And since half the country, according to polling, wasn't paying much attention to this trial, well, now it's going to be talked about everywhere. This is OJ verdict times 100 in terms of attention. So now you're going to have to formulate an opinion on it. Now you're going to be talking at the water cooler with people, and you're going to be overhearing people, and now this is going to be dominant for a while. And how that impacts what people think about what happened, I think, is undetermined at this point, because there's going to be so much more tension and conversation and consideration after the verdict than there was before the verdict. So don't get too impressed, confident, or despondent by any of these snap reaction polls, because there's a lot to hash out here in the weeks to come. Greg and Schaumburg.
Morning, Dan and Amy. First of all, you two have done a great job on this entire case. Secondly, the point that you're bringing up right now, Dan, is really very important, because human psyche is that when there is controversy, the great majority of people tend to shrink away from controversy. They won't stand on any intellectual points and champion them in any way. And that's going to be the case that the Democrats are going to try to do right now. And a case in point is this. With those two attorneys, you have to get into their head, being in New York, et cetera. Why didn't they stand up? When the judge's instructions came out and he wouldn't even give them a copy of it, I thought, oh, my God, these attorneys are going to go through and they're going to instruct these people in that jury room as to how crazy this is. But then I got to thinking about the Blago case and the second case of, the first case, when they went after that one holdout juror and just made her life miserable. And I thought, hey, there it is again. You shrink away from the controversy when there's valid intellectual points to stand there. Thanks.
Thanks for the call, Greg. We'll pick up that point and take more of your calls on the Trump verdict at 6:06.
But now let's head back into the newsroom. Here is Mike Scott.
We'll get reaction from Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson and the Illinois Republican Party following the Donald Trump verdict. A woman who admitted to helping her mother brutally kill a pregnant Chicago teen in 2019 being sentenced to 30 years in prison. Embattled CTA Authority President Dorval Carter defends himself against calls for him to resign. And in a report by Chicago's Inspector General says Chicago Police Department is not ready for the mass gatherings ahead of the DNC. Cubs lost to the Brewers 6-4. WIND Chicago News Time 6.
This is a Fox News alert. The Trump conviction fuels the Trump campaign. I'm Dave Anthony. The former president is fundraising after being found guilty in New York.
The real verdict is going to be November 5th by the people.
And sitting again. He's an innocent man targeted politically.
This was a rigged, disgraceful trial.
Sentencing set for July 11th, but he's vowing to appeal.
His lawyers say that they have a variety of areas that they can challenge, that the former president could not get a fair trial in Manhattan. They will also likely challenge several of Judge Juan Merchan's rulings in which he excluded some of the witnesses, also some of his jury instructions. They also are going to challenge the fact that the judge did not recuse himself because he donated money to President Biden's campaign in 2016, and his daughter works for a Democratic political consulting firm.
That's Fox's Eric Shawn outside the court. Michael Cohen, whose testimony helped convict his former boss, tells MSNBC.
It's accountability. It's exactly what America needs right now.
The former president was convicted of falsifying records, reimbursing Cohen for payments to keep an alleged affair quiet before the 2016 election. President Biden's campaign said in a statement, nobody is above the law. The president is readying an executive order dealing with the border as Republicans blame him for record illegal immigration.
An executive order that President Biden could sign as early as next week, the Associated Press reports, would trigger an automatic shutdown of the border if illegal crossings hit a daily threshold. The plan would deny entrance to migrants and shut off asylum requests if daily encounters average 4,000 a day over a week.
That's Fox's Jared Halpern. A police officer and a firefighter recovering in Minneapolis among those injured in deadly shootings that left another officer dead.
The city of Minneapolis lost a hero in police officer Jamal Mitchell.
Mayor Jacob Fry. He was ambushed and killed while tending to 2 other gunshot victims. The shooter was killed. America's listening to Fox News.
"51 degrees in Chicago. 6:02 on AM 560, The Answer. And good morning, everyone. I'm Mike Scott. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson reacting after former President Donald Trump was found guilty in his New York criminal hush money case. The mayor tweeting out, quote, "Donald Trump is a con artist, a bigot, and an embarrassment of a former president." The Illinois Republican Party saying following the verdict, quote, "The issue in the trial was one of process, political prosecution, the likes which occurs in banana republics, but not previously in these United States." End quote. A woman who admitted helping her mother brutally kill a pregnant Chicago teen back in 2019 sentenced to 30 years in prison. Desiree Figueroa was sentenced yesterday after pleading guilty in January. Embattled CTA President Dorval Carter defending himself against calls for him to resign.
As an African-American man, this city has a history of attacking and trying to bring down their African-American leaders.
Speaking to a city council committee yesterday, Carter's defense came after 29 of 50 aldermen and women signed a resolution last week calling for Carter to either resign or be fired by Brandon Johnson.
I have thousands of people who have been working very hard every single day to make this service better. Does that mean it's perfect? No. But let me tell you something. Before the pandemic hit, it wasn't perfect either.
Governor J.B. Pritzker has hinted he would like to see changes in leadership at the CTA. Federal judge delaying rulings on key evidentiary issues in the upcoming trial of a former AT&T Illinois president. Former executive was indicted in October of 2022 with conspiracy and federal program bribery over allegations he bribed then House Speaker Michael Madigan. That trial was set to begin in September. The Bears will be featured on HBO's Hard Knocks this summer. First episode, August 6. Cubs surrender a pair of runs in the bottom of the 8th in a 6-4 loss to the Brew Crew, while the White Sox aim to avoid their 9th loss in a row when they visit the Brewers tonight. Fighting Illini Baseball opens regional NCAA tournament play in Lexington, Kentucky today against a very good club from Indiana State. The news is a service of Crosscom Public Adjusters. If your home or business has an insurance claim, Crosscom will help you get what you need and have coming to you. They've helped thousands. CrosscomPublicAdjusters.com. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
This radio station is always on, but sometimes you need more content that you can take with you anywhere. That's why we invented the SalemPodcastNetwork.com. You'll find all the great hosts on this radio station, plus a few more, like Charlie Kirk, Dinesh D'Souza, Trish Regan, Jenna Ellis, and Dennis and Julie. There's literally no end to what we can teach you. It's like radio on demand, and just like radio, it's always on. Go find out what you're missing. Download the app, SalemPodcastNetwork.com.
Getting quality employees to fill positions in your company is essential, but finding those people can be a major hassle, unless you use ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter makes finding quality people a breeze. And right now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. With ZipRecruiter, one click sends your job to hundreds of top job sites. But more than that, ZipRecruiter's advanced technology identifies the candidates with the skills you need, sends you a list of great matches to review, then actively invites them to apply for your job. And the results speak for themselves. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. That's right, the first day. Now you can focus on your business and let ZipRecruiter do the work finding the best people for you. See for yourself. Experience the ease, efficiency, and power of ZipRecruiter for free. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
For anyone living with everyday aches and pains, there's a lot of things you can try. Tough it out, bite the bullet, grin and bear it. Or you can try something that has helped so many other people, Relief Factor. Relief Factor is a 100% drug-free daily supplement that helps your body fight pain naturally. Developed by doctors, Relief Factor uses a unique formula of natural ingredients that addresses the inflammation where pain starts. And Relief Factor doesn't just mask pain for a short time. It helps reduce or even eliminate it all day, every day. Wherever you're hurting, your back, neck, joints, or muscles, in about 3 weeks or less, you'll see a difference and rediscover what it's like to feel better and live better. So if everyday pain is affecting your life, don't go with the mind over matter approach. Try Relief Factor instead. Go to ReliefFactor.com or call 1-800-4RELIEF and save on your first order. That's 1-800-4-RELIEF. Fight pain naturally with Relief Factor.
Balance of Nature's fruits and veggies supplements, changing the world one life at a time.
My name is Faye, and I'm 81 years old, and I love life. I started taking Balance of Nature 6 years ago. I think we've all had the experience of looking at supplements and not even understanding the ingredients. In Balance of Nature, you understand every ingredient. I would not go a day without my Balance of Nature.
Make a splash into summer with Balance of Nature supplements. Go to balanceofnature.com and sign up as a new preferred customer to get 35% off your first order, plus a free fiber and spice supplement with free shipping and our money-back guarantee. That's 1-800-246-8751. Hurry, this offer is only available while supplies last. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751 and get this limited time offer by using discount code CHICAGO.
6:08. Let's get an update on the roads. We do that, of course, in our Team Hochberg Traffic Center. And this update is a service of scholarships.com. Imagine news that your college student doesn't have years and years of school debt. It's avoidable when you join scholarships.com free. Kennedy at 30 minutes already. O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange. Stop and go inbound on the Ike Manheim to Des Plaines Avenue. Stevenson already showing delays between Harlem and Kenzie. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast with Steve Williams.
Partly sunny, very nice day. The high today 80. Clouds tonight, a shower moving in toward dawn, low 62. Clouds and cooler, rain, thunderstorm tomorrow morning. Shower in spots for the afternoon. The high tomorrow at 67. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560. The Answer.
51 at O'Hare, 55 at Midway, 48 in Joliet, 48 in Wheeling. Your next news update is at 6:30. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. We've spent the last hour talking about the Trump verdict in Manhattan and taking your calls, and we're going to continue doing that because there's a lot to cover.
Well, and I'm wondering, too, the Biden camp said as soon as a verdict is reached, he's going to come out and have a press conference at the White House. I don't think he should. Just stick with their statement, say, justice was served, blah, blah. Don't take a victory lap. This is not a good day for America, and I think it only hurt his campaign. Honestly, I don't want to hear from him. I don't think we don't need to hear from him. And
Well, I mean, that's all well and good what you don't want to hear, but they have a plan that they're executing, and the plan is to continue to prosecute their case. Was there any sheepishness coming from the left yesterday? Any, look, I know some people are upset, but we have to maintain confidence in our justice system and so on and so forth. No, it was all the threat Trump poses to our democracy has never been greater. That was a statement from the Biden-Harris campaign yesterday. He's running an increasingly unhinged campaign of revenge and retribution, pledging to be a dictator on day one, calling out for our Constitution to be terminated so he can regain and keep power.
What about spewing more lies? Yeah.
What do we got here locally?
Oh, I have the best.
J.B. Pritzker, justice has been served. After facing jury of his peers, Trump is exposed as the liar and fraud he is. Trump evaded the law to deceive voters, and today the law caught up with him. Donald Trump is a racist, a homophobe, a grifter, and a threat to our country. He can now add one more title to his list, a felon. But let me be clear, Donald Trump will never be 47. Did you sense some humility, some restraint? There is no humility. There is no restraint. You don't understand who you're dealing with if you expect it from this side. And you don't understand the landscape on which you're dealing if you expect it from that side. They have a plan, and they are implementing it. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line, 64636DA, turnkey.pro text.
And Dan, I'm sure you care what Eric Reinhardt has to say. I mean, literally, he put out a press release about Donald Trump's conviction. And I'll just read one line. We can't have safe communities when one political party aggressively and disingenuously attacks the courts and the electoral authorities. Who does he think? He thinks people care what he thinks about the Trump
They
conviction?
should. The Lake County residents should care about it. Because what is the message that was sent in Manhattan? It's all focused on Trump. But take a page from Trump's book and expand the perspective. If they can do it to me, they can do it to you.
Yep.
And so Eric Reinhardt in Lake County, Kim Foxx's buddy in the Pritzker Purge Law.
Yeah, the only two state's attorneys that were for the Safety Act.
So you think that Eric Reinhardt wouldn't use the power of his office to go after a political opponent in Lake County if he could find a predicate to do so? This is the whole point. It's sending a message across the country and at every level of government, especially in places that are dominated by the left, which is half the country, and all of our, as I said last hour, civic and cultural mediating institutions. Don't be the nail that sticks up. If you're the nail that sticks up, we're going to pound you down.
Yep.
So you should pay attention to what these local officials are saying, because they would do the same thing with the fiefdom of power they have that Alvin Bragg or Letitia James did in New York City and New York State. Bank on it.
Oh, yeah. The last line was, I'm disheartened to hear the Illinois Republican Party continues Trump's attacks on judges and prosecutors.
Joe in East Dundee.
Hey, Dan and Amy. Yeah. My whole point is what's good for the goose is good for the gander. But my main point is that is it possible for this New York City judge, when Trump gets elected, to keep him from his official duties?
Is it possible to, if he's in prison temporarily, it would be?
He's the president of the United States.
Yeah.
And this New York City judge stopped him from running the country.
Well, I mean, potentially in the sense that if he is in prison, say he gets the max 4 years, say he gets some fraction of that, say he has to report to prison before the November 5th election, say he's still serving his sentence before the January 20th inauguration. I don't know. We're in uncharted territory, Joe, but it's theoretically possible, isn't it?
I don't think so.
Well, he doesn't have any priors. And this is not.
I don't care about that. It is absolutely theoretically possible. That's not
president of the United States.
You just keep saying that. It is not debatable.
It's a fact.
It is absolutely theoretically possible. I mean, you can have people come and visit him from his cell and take orders back and so on and so forth. Do I think it's going to happen? Probably not. Is it theoretically possible? Yes. And the point is to not dismiss it as not possible.
Just because talking heads on TV say he's going to get probation doesn't mean it's going to happen.
What people think is impossible keeps happening. Yep. Stop being so naive. Start thinking about the worst case scenario when it comes to what the left will do. Not they wouldn't go there.
They'll go there because they have. Oh, it makes me sick.
Dave in Wakanda. Dave, go ahead.
Good morning, Dan and Amy. I think what has happened is they have awakened a sleeping giant, and just like Pearl Harbor. And I think that Trump is going to win the Trumpfecta come November 2024.
Well, I hope you're right, Dave. We'll see is the most confident statement I can offer. By the way, as this is all going on,
yeah.
Durbin is pursuing a hearing with Alito because, the left is everybody doing their own thing to creatively figure out a way to use their power to achieve their ends, regardless of, inconvenient hurdles like the law. They want Alito to recuse himself from Trump-related matters at the Supreme Court because of the flags that temporarily flew at his residences, whatever. The point is that you've got Saca Durbin, the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee. He's on that job, and he's having a letter-writing campaign back and forth with Chief Justice Roberts. You've got people just getting notices from the IRS that the ProPublica tax returns that were stolen and turned over to ProPublica, obviously inside job, some IRS agent stole this information, people's private tax returns. Ken Griffin is suing the IRS over it, gave it to ProPublica. They, of course, publish it because they're ProPublica, they're state-run media. And now people are getting notices about, you may have a cause of action because your privacy was compromised as these tax returns were turned over illegally by someone in the IRS to this media outlet. Concurrent to this, the Supreme Court, in frankly a 9-0 decision, this is how aggressive they are, that even the leftist justices on the Supreme Court had to agree with the conservative majority. The NRA alleged that the New York State former superintendent of the Department of Financial Services coerced financial institutions she regulated to stop doing business with it and other gun rights groups. The debanking case. She threatened insurers, and those threats violated the First Amendment rights by punishing pro-gun advocacy. 9-0 decision. But what did the state superintendent of the Department of Financial Services in New York State? Don't be the nail that sticks up. You're a political opponent, particularly if you're a big target or you're creating a bit of a ruckus. You don't have to just worry about prosecutors. You have to worry about all these regulatory agencies who behave essentially like prosecutors at the behest of the political ruling class in a place like New York or a place like Illinois. All of this is going on. And you think this is about Trump solely? James in Naples.
Good morning, Dan and Amy. As part of the strategy, when we look back over the past couple of weeks when Biden got so aggressive in wanting the debates, do you think, understanding with high probability that Trump would be convicted, that now he can look aggressive in wanting to debate, but now back out given the fact that it would be a convicted felon that he would be debating?
Interesting, James, calling us from the best community in America in which to live, Naples, Florida.
Exactly. Right in front of Mount Prospect.
I don't see him backing out of the debates now.
No.
In point of fact, this will be an opportunity for him to say the phrase convicted felon, see how many times he can say it in the course of an hour and a half.
Yeah, we should start a drinking game with that. And he better watch throw in the convicted felon because President Biden, your son Hunter boy there, could be a convicted felon in a few weeks from now.
Yeah, but when that happens, if it happens, but I think it probably will.
I think it's going to happen. Well, I've been proven wrong many times.
So then what's the response going to be? Well, it just shows you again that nobody's above the law. Now let's return to Trump. It's an unfortunate thing. My son was in a bad place. He made a mistake. Now he's got to pay for it. See, nobody's above the law. Now let's return to Trump. We can't have a convicted felon in the White House. That's what they're going to do.
Okay.
So the Trump campaign and some of these message makers better start thinking through this a little bit more deeply. And that includes the principal himself, Donald Trump. Because it was interesting that the day after, or the day of closing arguments, when he did his post-court press conference, it was interesting. He finally said what I was saying he should have been saying months before the trial started.
Mother Teresa could not beat these charges. These charges are rigged. The whole thing is rigged.
And we knew it was going to be rigged from the beginning because it was conjured out of whole cloth. So say it from the beginning. So you had conditioned people and you had socialized them for everything that would subsequently come to pass. You didn't know all the forms it would take, but we've got a litany. You'll have them memorialized in the appeals that are filed by Trump's attorneys. Let them, I'm innocent, but I will be convicted because predicting it well in advance, not after saying it's rigged for 6 weeks, well in advance would have done him better than not doing so.
And he did mention, too, they could have tried this case 7 years ago, but they waited till the election year. And can you imagine if Barack Obama and if he was in a deep red city with a Republican prosecutor who ran on a promise to get him and then charged him with a crime? So can you imagine if that happened to him and how the world would be reacting?
Well, the world is a big place, as we were just talking about. The world is always reacting. America's always reacting. No, it's not. Segments are reacting, and they're reacting differently. This is why Megyn Kelly. Oh, we may go after Barack Obama. We may go after Hillary Clinton. Really? How? With who? With what? Where? Just cheap talk. The world is reacting, and the what about or the if then. If it was the political opponent. Right. How would conservatives be reacting versus how would the left be reacting? We can say that with respect to just about everything. And your point is what? We have different reactions to similar circumstances? Yes, because we have different worldviews, and at least on the conservative side, we have core values that are reflected in our preferred policy choices. But the reaction is only interesting to the extent you want to talk about the counter reaction and the net result of the action reaction. We just make blanket statements. I mean, Laura Ingraham, all these people, just blanket statements about what's going to happen and the world this and the big one's coming. And no, it's not. It's like talking about the community of nations. It's a falsity. It's a false construction. Let's be very specific about what happened, the implications, what the response should be, the scope of the fight before us. Or you can just listen to somebody give you throwaway vengeance lines like it's an action movie and be entertained for 5 minutes. Tom in Blue Island, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Good morning, AB. Good morning, Dan. Dan, spot on. The line that stuck out to me in what you said about, in reference to Megyn Kelly, not about her directly, is insulated by money. And to what Joe just said a couple of calls ago, a guy like Merchan would be gnawing at the bit. These people don't think that he'd be gnawing at the bit to put Trump in jail and keep him in jail. And in reference to Megyn Kelly, as you said, Dan, who? No one. because successful Republicans aren't going to stick their neck out. They're insulated by money, and that's why this goes on. Someone like Alvin Bragg, Fannie Willis, Letitia James, you wouldn't have to ask them twice to stick their neck out to prosecute Trump. But you ask a Republican to do that? Not a chance in the world, because they're not going to risk what they have. Spot on, Dan.
Thanks for the call, Tom.
Alvin Bragg, he accomplished one of his campaign promises, that he's going to indict President Trump.
Yeah, so did Letitia James.
Yeah.
She's going to get him.
She's going to get him. Yeah.
Bankrupt him.
Fannie Willis thinks she's next.
John, Milwaukee.
Good morning. We are dealing with godless people, no moral compass. And my question is, former President of the United States, does he have Secret Service people watching him in the prison so that he doesn't get the Epstein treatment? I'll hang up and wait for your answer. Thank you for an excellent morning show. Thank you.
Thanks,
No,
John.
they'll stay with him.
Yeah,
they're assigned to him. That is their job. So no matter where he goes, they go.
I assume it would be.
Yes.
He would be doing a stretch, and so would the Secret Service detail that's assigned to him, I guess.
Maybe he could get some tips from Scotty Scheffler.
I mean, we don't know. I mean, again, I know it sounds farcical and unbelievable, but it is an available option. That's where things are at.
That judge hates him, and if he's not remorseful during his sentencing hearing, I'm fearful
And
that they'll throw him in the clank.
And is there a ethics complaint being filed against Judge Merchan? Nobody asked the Trump lawyers that. They should. He should be subject to an ethics investigation. And I know, who's going to do the investigating? So that's not the point. The point is that all legal avenues available.
Yep.
Flood the zone. The jurors, Andy McCarthy and Turley in their post-verdict wrap-up are talking a little bit about the jurors. And I think it was McCarthy that sort of was giving them a bit of a pass because of the absurd jury instructions from the conflicted, and I would say corrupt, he's partisan, he's corrupt, judge. The jury instructions there,
55 pages,
where you didn't have to have unanimity on the predicate crime in order to convict, which is exactly what we were discussing with Professor William Jacobson from Cornell Law and others prior to the verdict yesterday. And actually prior to even the formal jury instructions. We didn't have time on the show to go through 55 pages. But I don't give them a pass, especially because you had the two lawyers on the jury. And you didn't need even the push by Judge Merchan and even wiring it up. You still look at the credibility of the witnesses. You look at the basis for the underlying case. You use your own sort of working knowledge of the world and hush money payments in politics, John Edwards, Paula Jones, and you say, well, no, there's no there with this case. Right. So I don't give the jurors a pass just because Merchan is corrupt. And so the question is, when do we find out who the jurors are?
They all know who they are. They're trying to get them on. And if you were a juror, Dan, would you go on TV?
I don't really care about that. I want to know the names of the jurors. I want them to be publicly identified.
Well, I want to understand how they perceive Michael Cohen.
Fine. You have to ask them whatever questions you want if they want to hold themselves out for questions, but they should be identified. And here's another what somebody could do who is in conservative media, for example. The Prime Minister in Ogden Dunes.
It's a sad day in America, and there is no Prime Minister today. I went to consult the only person that I hold in higher regard than you, Dan, about political knowledge, and that is the great George Orwell. I don't consider Trump a true politician. I think he's a poor communicator, despite what a lot of people think. And so I quote Orwell directed at real politicians. And he said, political language is designed to make lies sound truthful and murder sound respectable, and to give an appearance of solidity to pure wind.
It's a great Orwell quote. Thanks for the call, Kevin. And it's always worth reminding people Orwell was a socialist, so he knew exactly what he was talking about and who he was talking about. And it seems that a lot of Republicans and a lot of MAGA supporters still don't, maybe a little bit more after the verdict than before, but still don't really appreciate who we're talking about and the lengths they will go to, like Orwell did. Coming up at 6:36, we'll continue this conversation with some perspective from JustTheNews.com's John Sullivan. That is easy for me to say. That's 6:36.
But now let's head straight into that newsroom. Here's Mike Scott.
52 degrees at 6:32. Barricades are up this morning around Trump Tower. Increased police presence with former President Trump set to speak there this morning. The former president was found guilty on all 34 counts in his New York hush money case. The former president, in reaction, according to North Dakota Republican Governor Doug Burgum, has a home with the GOP.
American people are waking up today. This verdict doesn't change the fact that they're facing higher food prices, higher gas prices, higher electricity prices. They can't afford a home.
The 12-person jury returned its verdict yesterday after deliberating for about 9.5 hours. Trump is still facing more than 50 felony charges in 3 other different criminal cases. A police officer and 2 others are dead after a mass shooting in Minneapolis. The suspected gunman was also killed in the shooting. It happened Thursday evening at an apartment complex. Minneapolis Police Assistant Chief Katie Blackwell.
He's courageous in every action that he did. He was a wonderful human being. He had only been on our department about 1.5 years, and he was exceptional in every way.
At a press conference, Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey later identified that officer as 28-year-old Jamal Mitchell. Severe thunderstorms hit Denver overnight. Large destructive hail moved through the area. Hail as large as tennis balls shattered cars, houses, and businesses and damaged many suburbs. CDC is confirming another case of bird flu in a farm worker, the 3rd in the U.S. since March. Mayor Brandon Johnson reacting after former President Trump was found guilty in his New York hush money case. The mayor tweeting out about the topic, saying Donald Trump, quote, is a con artist, a bigot, and an embarrassment of a former president, end quote. Meantime, the Illinois Republican Party saying, quote, in a statement, the issue in the trial was one of process, a political prosecution, the likes of which occurs in banana republics, but not previously in these United States, end quote. Embattled CTA President Dorval Carter is defending himself against calls for him to resign.
As an African-American man, this city has a history of attacking and trying to bring down their African-American leaders.
Carter's defense comes after 29 of 50 aldermen signed a resolution last week calling for Carter to resign or be fired or see major improvements in CTA service. In a worrisome development, comedian Michael Rapaport's upcoming shows at the Batavia Comedy Vault have been canceled amid threats from pro-Palestinian and pro-Hamas terror groups. Rapaport, who is Jewish, was scheduled to perform at the Comedy Vault in Batavia June 6 through 8, but those shows are now off their calendar. Batavia police did meet with the Comedy Vault owners after the venue was flooded with calls and emails to cancel those shows. And a 9-month-old bobcat is back home and safe after escaping yesterday from the Washington Park Zoo in Michigan City, Indiana. Grace, well, no one's figured out yet how she escaped her enclosure, but her and her sister have been moved to another building for safe holding. Bobcats, by the way, are native to Northwest Indiana. Cubs lost to the Brew Crews 6-4. White Sox take on the Brewers tonight. NBA playoffs, Dallas punching their ticket to the NBA Finals for the first time since 2011 with a 124-103 win over Minnesota. The news, a service of quick delivery service, ground delivery when you need it from safe, licensed professionals. Go to quickdelivery.com now to schedule your delivery. And a check of traffic and weather is on the way next on AM 560.
Dennis Prager says nice doesn't mean wise.
I realized nice people can vote viciously because there is no connection between nice and wise. You can be not nice and wise, and you can be nice and a fool. At least fool on the macro matters, not necessarily in personal matters.
The Dennis Prager Show. Weekdays at 11, right before Charlie Kirk at 1 on AM 560. The Answer.
Parents, grandparents, you might want to be sitting down because this is amazing news. Imagine the student in your family not asking you for money to pay for college, or better yet, not getting into years and years of debt. How's this possible? Scholarships.com, a trusted and widely used scholarship platform that helps your student find scholarships and navigate the financial aid process. Get help to pay for college through a personalized list of scholarships that your student actually qualifies for. Better yet, every scholarship is vetted to ensure accuracy. And now the best part, drum roll please, it's absolutely free. Go to scholarships.com today. Both students and parents can join for free. And within minutes, receive your list of personalized scholarship matches. Check out the wealth of information and resources available at no cost. And read the fantastic reviews from other scholarship winners. Scholarships.com has helped over 23 million students and families find scholarships to help pay for college. And will help you too. Join scholarships.com today for free. That's scholarships.com.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
Everyone knows the old saying, nothing lasts forever. Well, whoever said that obviously never bought a timeshare. Not only do your maintenance fees and assessment fees go on forever, they go up forever. I'm Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group. Over 10 years ago, I was a timeshare salesman. But once I saw the dark side of the business, I quit. I started helping folks get out of their timeshares. Since then, we've helped over 30,000 families by getting them out of bad timeshares. If your timeshare agreement goes on forever, if you were told timeshares are a great investment, or your maintenance fees will never go up, you have questions, we have the answers. Give us a call. I guarantee if we take you as a client, we'll get you out of your timeshare or you'll pay nothing.
Call Wesley now for your free information kit. 800-839-8484. That's 800-839-8484. 800-839-8484.
Balance of Nature supplements, changing the world one life at a time.
Oh, it's been actually really good. I'm 81 years old. I'm a retired nurse, and I have found, I've taken it for about 5 years, I do feel better. At first, there wasn't a drastic change, but I found it really has made, a difference in my lifestyle. It does improve our quality of life.
Make a splash into summer with Balance of Nature supplements. Go to balanceofnature.com and sign up as a new preferred customer to get 35% off your first order, plus a free fiber and spice supplement with free shipping and our money-back guarantee. That's 1-800-246-8751. Hurry, this offer is only available while supplies last. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751 and get this limited time offer by using discount code CHICAGO.
Now there's a simple, easy, and effective way to clean your nose and protect your health. It's called Navage. Navage, available at Navage.com.
It is 6:40. Let's get a quick update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time, a service of ExpressPros.com. The specialized recruiting group takes an individual approach, placing people in contract and full-time roles at srgexpress.com. Eden's 25, Lake Cook Road to the junction. Eichen 42 and climbing from 390 into the old post office. Dan Ryan, right now 20 minutes, 95th into the circle. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. Now your official Chicagoland weather forecast, partly sunny and warmer. Nice day outdoors, high 80. Clouds on the increase overnight, and we'll have a shower toward dawn tomorrow and a low of 62. 52 right now at O'Hare, 49 in Lansing, 57 along the lakefront. Your next news update is at 7. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. So, in the wake of the guilty verdict in Manhattan, the Trump campaign team posted a new online spot that just has sort of Trump doing the manly slow walk directly into the camera with this voiceover.
This is the final battle. With you at my side, we will demolish the deep state. We will expel the warmongers from our government. We will drive out the globalists. We will cast out the communists, Marxists, and fascists. We will throw off the sick political class that hates our country. We will rout the fake news media, and we will liberate America from these villains once and for all.
Beating the drums of revolt, okay, but is that going to be enough? Is that a drumbeat to which even some Republicans will march? For more on the fallout from yesterday that we're just starting to get our arms around, pleased to be joined by John Solomon, award-winning investigative journalist and founder of Just the News, justthenews.com. John, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, great to be with you.
So, you heard from a lot of the usual suspects in Republican ranks, pro-Trump Republican ranks, the Byron Donaldses and the Marco Rubios yesterday. But is the party, particularly sort of the D.C. iteration of the party, as energized for the fight as is Trump and his allies?
They are right now. A lot will depend on how the next few weeks go, right? If there's a large drop in polling, sometimes Republicans retreat, right? Sometimes they lose their willingness to fight. At least establishment Republicans do. My guess is that the polling will be a wash. There'll be a certain group of independents, particularly Black and Latino voters, that will see in this the injustices that they've always been concerned about in the justice system, and they might rally towards Donald Trump. You saw a lot of minority voters outside the courthouse in New York saying that yesterday. There'll be some independents that are suddenly going to get queasy about or squeamish about voting for someone who has 34 felony convictions, which is exactly what the Democrats want. But I think when you look into the polling data of the last 3 or 4 months before the verdict, when a lot of people expected there would be a verdict, 2/3, 3/4 of Americans say this doesn't affect them. They're voting based on the issues. And I think when you look at the remainder who said it does, it's equally split. About half the voters who said the verdict would affect them said they were more likely to vote for Trump. The other half said less likely. So if it stays a wash, I think the establishment Republicans double down. They see vulnerability in Joe Biden. They see a country shifting away from his policies. They see polls showing a strong Republican preference for Congress and for President Trump. And I think they have a sense that this election is an epic election. There are elections, and then there are big elections. And I think a lot of Republicans, regardless of their views of Donald Trump, see this as an election that's going to define a quarter century or more of American history. And that motivates them beyond just Joe Biden v. Donald Trump. And I think that those are the things to watch. The danger would be if there's a big drop in polls, there could be some panic. I don't think that happens based on the pre-conviction polling, but sometimes polls create self-fulfilling phenomenons. Right now, I think what President Trump has done, which has gone right back to business, get right back to issues, just like that little video did today. That's what he's been winning on since November of 22nd, after Republicans underperformed in the midterm elections. He has stuck to substance, and the more he sticks to substance, the more voters embrace him.
Yeah, I agree that it's going to be volatile because, the same polling has half the country not paying attention to this trial pre-conviction. And so now they're just starting to process it because now it's going to be unavoidable to discuss and think about and ultimately have an opinion of. But the spot we played was psychological much more than sort of substantive, right? And it's leading that revolt. And I agree that Trump can't make it about, himself and his woes. He can't get into sort of self-pity, martyrdom lingo. But what I see some other Republicans doing, this election, it doesn't matter. It's not. It's about pocketbook issues. Let's talk about what happens when people go to the grocery store. I think that is so lame. I think that completely misses the moment. And Trump is closer to the target. I don't think he's exactly on it, but he's closer to the target when he's saying, no, stay in this moment. You already know what I know about going to the grocery store at the gas pump. I don't need to sell past the close on that. What I do need you to pay attention to is what happened in Manhattan means for us and for our country, including you specifically.
There's no doubt. Listen, he has for months said that he's fighting this not just for himself, but that this is for the rest of the country. Because if they can do it to me, they almost certainly will do it to you. And I think that is something that resonates with voters. There is something about the way this trial has been conducted in Manhattan that makes a lot of people feel uneasy. And by the way, Democratic legal experts on CNN have expressed significant concern about what happened. There's something in the deep of our conscience that says we don't put our political rivals in prison. We don't prosecute them in the courts. We settle our disputes at the election box. And I think that is a winning issue. I think you get away from demonizing Merchant and the jury. You focus on the bigger system, which is what Alvin Bragg finished was what Hillary Clinton started 8 years ago. She lied to you about Russia collusion. Then they lied to you about Ukraine impeachment. Then they lied to you about the Hunter Biden laptop. They lied to you about the China money to Joe Biden. They're lying to you again now. And at some point, do you want to put a stop to this? Do you want to get back to America as normal? And I think that if he stays in that lane, it's a very powerful argument that particularly appeals to independents who may not have a great feeling for either of the two general party candidates, but has a strong sense that America's on the wrong course, that it's screwed up, that Joe Biden has made things worse. And to be honest with you, things felt better under Donald Trump. Donald Trump had more success. That's what the polling data shows. I think Donald Trump has to stay in that lane and make that case day in and day out, not get distracted by little things.
Life was certainly easier when he was president. But how would you handle the sentencing hearing that's going to take place July 11th? Because, experts on television are saying he better be remorseful or else, because Judge Merchant, he still has all the power here.
Yeah, listen, I think Donald Trump's prepared to go to prison. He has said so. I don't doubt him for saying it. I think he taunted the judge to see if the judge had the courage to put him in the prison during the trial by violating the gag order that he found unconstitutional. I don't think Donald Trump can or will be remorseful based on all the reporting I've done. I think he thinks what happened in Manhattan is unrighteous, and he's not going to bend to it just because he thinks it'll get him a better sentence. And in his mind, if he's running from prison the last 4 or 5 months, that's an optic that I think he has said many times is what the Democrats want to do to this country. He's willing to endure it. And I think that's when you listen to him, he has already addressed these questions long before the sentencing, long before the trial. And I think he's not as worried about his personal consequence as he is for Americans to understand what's at stake. He really believes that if this verdict stands, if this election goes to Joe Biden, that the country will never, ever, ever be the same, and he's trying to fight against that. I think that is an honest assessment from him. It's what he really believes. Whether Americans believe it, we'll find out on November 5th.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, he continues to beat the left out of the brush and put them on display for all to see who they really are. And nothing would put an exclamation point on that more than him having his Alexander Solzhenitsyn moment running for president from the Gulag. I got to say, what about an immediate reaction from the House in particular, where that slim majority still exists, and where the articles of impeachment would against Joe Biden would originate? Do you sense that perhaps in response to this, that for example, Comer and Jordan and company may be more incentivized to move with more alacrity towards an impeachment of Biden, or are they still going to play we got to see how it polls, and we don't want to look like this is retributive, and so on and so forth?
Listen, I don't think the problem is with Jordan and Comer, who I've said over and over again they think the evidence is overwhelming to support an impeachment. I think the problem is with the rank and file, particularly those who come from moderate states. They've just not had the courage to call out Joe Biden for what is now clear is a wave of lies that Joe Biden imposed on the American people to win the election. Just think of the story I broke last Friday. Joe Biden said in the camera, he looked at the camera in 2020 and said, my family to get money from China. I never met with my business partners. The FBI had $3.3 million documents from Hunter Biden's 2016 business partnerships, and they knew for sure that what Joe Biden said was false. They had emails showing Hunter Biden arranging a meeting in China as he was scoring money for the family with his father right after his father came out of an official meeting with the new Chinese president, President Xi Jinping. And that meeting occurred, and that Hunter Biden reported that the meeting occurred and that it was a good thing. Joe Biden's lies are substantial. Joe Biden's involvement in an influence peddling scheme is substantial. Jordan and Comer continue to get new evidence. These 3.3 million documents are going to provide weeks of jaw-dropping revelations. I have access to them. I know what's in it. We're going to start reporting more next week. But the will of the party has not changed. There is a small group, 20 to 40 Republicans that come from moderate districts who aren't willing to put their reelection at risk to take that vote.
Maybe those. I mean, have you named those names? Maybe those names need to be put on the bulletin board for all to see.
Yeah, well, listen, many of them have named themselves. Many have come out. I think you've seen Michael Lawler in New York and some of the members in California just saying, I'm not taking the vote. I don't think we should do it. And I think that over time, the evidence will continue to grow. Here is the really interesting dynamic that hasn't been caught by the traditional media. All right, James Comer's put all this out there. A lot of people say, does it matter? Does it make a difference? Well, in 2019, when I wrote the first Joe Biden stories, the ones that the media, my colleagues in the media who I worked with for 30 years called conspiracy theories, only about 19% of Americans thought Joe Biden did anything wrong. They were mostly hardcore MAGA Republicans. The AP put out a poll in April. Even though the New York Times and the Washington Post have not affirmed or reported nearly anything that has come out from the Comer, Jordan, or my own continued work, but 67% of it, 2/3 of Americans now say they believe that Joe Biden did something unethical or illegal. How did that happen? I think that is an extraordinary dynamic that the gatekeepers in the news media have not been able to keep a lid on that champagne bottle, and that the American people now have a grave sense that their president is not only inept, because that's already clear in the polling, but that he may somehow be corrupt. He did something untoward, unethical, or illegal by helping Joe Biden. And those thoughts probably get enhanced in the next couple of weeks because we're going to go to a Hunter Biden gun trial. Joe Biden's gun control advocate, his son violated those gun control laws according to his own Justice Department. And in September, Joe Biden, who's advocated that millionaires and rich people pay their fair share, will have to acknowledge that his son is on trial for not paying his fair share and doing years to avoid the responsibility under the tax code. Those things are going to continue to move that number up likely. And I think that even though there's not an impeachment, the jury of the American public, the voting public, seems to have rendered a verdict based on the evidence that Comer and Jordan put out there.
Well, it's a credit to your work, but also to your approach, which is you present the evidence and you make the case and you do it relentlessly. Not repetitively, but relentlessly in terms of new information and continuing to report it. And you can turn people based on your work product. If only Republicans had that philosophy, that you have 20 to 40 Republicans who are afraid to side with 2/3 of the American public. It's so classic Republican.
It is. When I came to Washington 30 years ago, I met with a wily old senator. He was a progressive from Wisconsin, Senator Bill Proxmire, though he did things like the Golden Fleece that highlighted waste, fraud, and abuse in government. So he was probably being more moderate by today's party. He said two things to me: never overestimate my party's ability to overplay their hand, and never underestimate the ability of Republicans to rescue defeat from the jaws of victory. And when you think about what he said, both of those dynamics are at work in this election right now.
John Solomon, award-winning investigative journalist and founder of Just the News. JustTheNews.com is where you get John and John's work and the work of his colleagues. John, thanks so much for joining us as always. Appreciate it.
Yeah, great honor to be with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
The stories you need to know to start your day. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
This is Carol Platt, Liebau for townhall.com. It was an embarrassing weekend for Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg. On Face the Nation, he was confronted with some damning facts. Despite having received $7.5 billion for electric vehicle charging, the Federal Highway Administration has only produced a grand total of 7, maybe 8, EV chargers in 3 years. That's a far cry from the 50,000 per year necessary to reach the administration's goal of 500,000 chargers by 2030. The waste is particularly galling given Americans' declining interest in buying electric cars. According to an April Gallup poll, only 9% are even seriously considering purchasing an EV. Secretary Buttigieg claims that everything is on track and just fine. Perhaps that's true for those on the receiving end of $7.5 billion of taxpayer largesse. For the rest of us, this looks like nothing more than another government green grift.
Oh, boy. Spring, summer, it's here. Another nice weekend in Chicago. And as you get out your grill and get your patio ready for the summer barbecues, remember that hot dogs, brats, beer, burgers don't provide the fruits and vegetables your body desperately needs every day to stay healthy and energized. That's why I've been taking Balance of Nature for nearly a decade. It's so easy to open up the individual capsules and dust them over my salad or mix them into my juice drinks. That's how I do it. And thousands of AM 560 listeners love their Balance of Nature. And you will too. 6 capsules a day provides your body, heart, and mind with 10 servings of 31 different fruits and vegetables. You will love it, and your body, mind, and heart will thank you for it too. Order today by calling 800-246-8751. Use coupon code Chicago to save 35% and get free shipping as a preferred customer. 800-246-8751. Call now or order online at balanceofnature.com. Use coupon code Chicago. Balance of Nature, fruits and veggie supplements, changing the world one life at a time.
At Signature Bank, going the distance for business banking customers is what we do every day. We understand that business owners have a strategic mission, a drive to succeed, a plan for growth, and don't have time to wait for a bank to respond. With Signature Bank, you not only have a banking partner that has roots right here in Chicago, but our decisions are made locally too. Signature Bank knows that when you have a question or problem about your business, you want answers. You need someone who will pick up the phone or respond to your text. You need someone who is always there for you. That's Signature Bank. We are a team that wants to get to know you and your business. Want to be Signature Bank's next success story? Give us a call today at 773-467-5630 or visit us online at signaturebank.bank. Member FDIC Equal Housing Lender.
AM 560, The Answer.
All right, coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
At 7:07, we'll talk Trump legal strategy, including the prospect that he can appeal this state-level conviction to the Supreme Court. We'll talk with Joseph Moreno, former federal prosecutor with the DOJ and the National Security Division. Joseph Moreno at 7:07.
But now let's head into the newsroom. Here is Mike Scott.
Mayor Johnson reacts to the Trump conviction. 14-year-old critically wounded in a West Side shooting. A woman sentenced to 30 years in the Marlon Ochoa Lopez murder case. WIND Chicago News Time, 7 o'clock.
This is a Fox News alert. What's next for a candidate turned convicted felon? I'm Dave Anthony.
This will increase turnout on our side. He will win decisively. He will become the next president.
House Speaker Mike Johnson among the many Republicans even more energized by former President Trump's conviction, telling Fox this morning.
He's a symbol of fighting back against this government corruption, the deep state, the bureaucracy, and all the rest.
The Biden campaign, on the other hand, is cashing in on this moment. Quote, there's only one way to keep Donald Trump out of the Oval Office, at the ballot box. Donate to our campaign today.
Now, that's Fox's Brooke Sigmund. The Biden campaign also saying that nobody is above the law. We'll hear from the former president in 3 hours. He said after leaving the courtroom hearing he's guilty 34 times to all the charges.
This was a disgrace. This was a rigged trial by a conflicted judge who was corrupt.
Sentencing set for July 11th, days before he's set to be nominated for president at the Republican convention. But Trump lawyer Todd Blanche says they'll appeal.
We've been saying for over a year that we couldn't get a fair trial in Manhattan. We couldn't get a fair trial with the judge.
Now, the Manhattan District Attorney, Alvin Bragg, praised the jury and said,
I did my job. Our job is to follow the facts and the law without fear or favor.
Now, the former president was convicted on 34 counts of falsifying records, reimbursing then lawyer Michael Cohen for payments to keep an alleged affair quiet before the 2016 election. Cohen testified for the prosecution and hailed the verdict as what America needs right now. They're mourning a murdered police officer in Minneapolis.
This officer gave the ultimate sacrifice.
Mayor Jacob Fry saying they all lost a hero. Jamal Mitchell ambushed while attending to gunshot victims. The shooter was killed and returned fire. 2 others also died. This is a big deal for Ukraine as Russian forces keep making advances around the city of Kharkiv. Germany today joined the U.S. authorizing Ukraine to use weapons to target Russia. America's listening to Fox.
52 degrees, sunshine at 7:02 on AM 560. The Answer. Good morning. I'm Mike Scott. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson reacting after former President Donald Trump was found guilty in his New York hush money case.
Justice spoke very loudly today, and, this is how the process works. And again, justice being served in this moment is critical for our democracy.
Meantime, this morning, the governor's office is confirming that J.B. Pritzker will be giving the keynote speech at the Wisconsin Democrat Convention in Milwaukee next week. Pritzker has also helped the Democrat Party of Wisconsin financially, donating millions to the party and candidates over the past few election cycles. A woman who admitted to helping her mother brutally kill a pregnant Chicago teen in 2019 being sentenced to 30 years in prison. Desiree Figueroa was sentenced yesterday after pleading guilty in January to murder. Embattled CTA President Dorval Carter Jr. defending himself again against calls for him to resign.
As an African-American man, this city has a history of attacking and trying to bring down their African-American leaders.
29 of 50 aldermen and women signed a resolution calling for Carter to either resign or be fired after failures with the CTA. The governor himself has hinted he would like to see changes in leadership at the CTA. The family of a man shot and killed by police in Oak Grove Village last December is suing. Jack Murray's family filed a wrongful death lawsuit against the village and 5 unnamed officers. Chicago sports. Cubs gave up 2 in the bottom of the 8th inning in a 6-4 loss to Milwaukee. White Sox visit the Brew Crew later on tonight. Bears will be on Hard Knocks. Team has never been featured in the HBO series. First episode is August 6. Stanley Cup playoffs. Panthers outlast the Rangers 3-2 in Game 5 of the Eastern Conference Final. The news, a service of Team Hochberg. They've helped thousands of AM 560 listeners with the best rates and service. Let Team Hochberg help you by visiting 56david.com or call 855-563-2843, lower.com, equal housing lender, NMLS 1124061. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Brandon Tatum sees a clear choice.
It makes no sense for him to even be in office in the first place. Our forefathers, our ancestors are spinning, rolling in their graves so fast, they're starting to catch on fire. I can see smoke coming up from the gravesite. They rolling that fast. These people are evil, and we should call them for what they are. In my opinion, there's no other choice but Donald Trump.
The Officer Tatum Show, weeknights at 8, right before Sean Hannity at 10 on AM 560. The Answer. It's almost time once again for the annual AM 560 golf outing presented by Signature Bank. And this year, AM 560 is proud to partner with the Tunnel to Towers Foundation to help them support America's first responders and military heroes, including homeless veterans, and to help America never forget 9/11. This year, our golf outing is happening on Wednesday, June 19th at McRae Memorial Golf Club in Barrington. When you purchase a foursome to join us, you'll enjoy a full day of golf, meals, an awards reception, and a silent auction. And if you're a business owner, when you purchase a foursome, you'll also receive an AM 560 marketing package, which includes 25 one-minute commercials between 5 a.m. and 8 p.m. and a free digital marketing analysis. And we also have twosomes available in addition to foursomes. Reserve your foursome today at 560theanswer.com/golf. That's 560theanswer.com/golf. Sponsored in part by Control Point Engineering, Waukegan Roofing, and by Crosscom Public Adjusters.
For anyone living with everyday aches and pains, there's a lot of things you can try. You know, tough it out, bite the bullet, grin and bear it. Or you can try something that has helped so many other people, Relief Factor. Relief Factor is a 100% drug-free daily supplement that helps your body fight pain naturally. Developed by doctors, Relief Factor uses a unique formula of natural ingredients that addresses the inflammation where pain starts. And Relief Factor doesn't just mask pain for a short time. It helps reduce or even eliminate it all day, every day. Wherever you're hurting, your back, neck, joints, or muscles, in about 3 weeks or less, you'll see a difference and rediscover what it's like to feel better and live better. So if everyday pain is affecting your life, don't go with the mind over matter approach. Try Relief Factor instead. Go to ReliefFactor.com or call 1-800-4-RELIEF and save on your first order. That's 1-800-4-RELIEF. Fight pain naturally with Relief Factor.
Conveyors keep your products moving, but when they break down, it can cost your company time and money. If you need help with conveyors, call a company that has the expertise and capability to help.
Hi, I'm Dave Van Camp, president of Vans Industrial. I've got over 40 years of personal experience in dealing with conveyors and their related parts. At Vans, we install and maintain all types of conveyors, including screw conveyors, belt conveyors, drag conveyors, and bucket elevators. And if you need related conveyor chutes, drives, guards, or dust collection, we can design and install all of these components for your conveyor system.
Vans uses only the best and safest union-trained mechanics insured at the highest levels to perform the job right. Call 833-VANS-IND to schedule your conveyor inspection today. That's 833-VANSIND. Visit them online at vansindustrial.com. That's VANSindustrial.com. Vans Industrial, working safe since 1964.
7:08. Let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time is a service of Windy City Safe, Chicagoland's only Liberty Safe dealer. With Liberty Safes, you're not just getting a safe, you're getting peace of mind. Visit the Niles showroom, 224 Lockbox, or online at windycitysafes.com. 30 minutes on the inbound Edens, Lake Cook Road to the junction. The Kennedy, boy, get on while you can. 48 O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange. Stevenson, 45 from the Tri-State into DuSable Lakeshore Drive. Dan Ryan, accident, left lane block, inbound between 51st and Pershing. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast with Steve Williams.
A bit warmer today, partly sunny with a high at 80. Clouds tonight, a shower toward dawn, low 62. Cloudy, cooler, rain, thunderstorm for tomorrow morning. Shower in spots for the afternoon. High tomorrow at 67. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560, The Answer.
52 right now. Next news, 7:30. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Scott Tucker Solutions and his show Retirement Decoded. Sunday mornings at 8. Learn more at scotttuckersolutions.com.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. You know, something I noticed, I was thinking about this when I was listening to Alvin Bragg and his cohorts with their post-conviction press conference yesterday.
All chatty, smiling with the media, banter back and forth. Lovely day.
What I've noticed is that the people who most often utter the phrase, no one is above the law, are the people who believe themselves to be above the law. And Alvin Bragg is such a person, a modern-day Thomas Dewey, to hear him tell it.
In the 1930s, District Attorney Thomas Dewey ushered in the era of the modern, independent professional prosecutor. For now nearly 90 years, dedicated professionals in this office have built upon that fine tradition.
But even though he's 21st century Thomas Dewey, who was a Republican, by
Republican,
the way, yes, ran against FDR, Truman. Anyway, even though he is a modern day Thomas Dewey, the heroic independent prosecutor, please.
Enough about me.
Don't call him a hero. He doesn't need it. He does things humbly.
I want to thank this phenomenal prosecution team, embodying the finest traditions of this office: professionalism, integrity, dedication, and service. They are model public servants, and I am proud and humbled to serve side by side with them.
Integrity, professionalism, public service. For more on this, we're pleased to be joined by Joseph Moreno, former federal prosecutor with the Department of Justice in the National Security Division, a former staff member with the FBI's 9/11 Review Commission, and a U.S. Army combat veteran. Joseph Moreno, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Good morning, Dan. Good to be with you.
Do you think those adjectives that Alvin Bragg used to describe himself and his colleagues are accurate?
I think it's grotesque, frankly, Dan. I mean, a few decades ago, had a prosecutor run for office promising that when he's elected, he would go after his political enemies, that would have been a disqualifier. There's, under any basic legal ethics, that should bar you from holding that office. And yet, Alvin Bragg is holding it like a trophy. I mean, I have no doubt in the next decade he'll be New York's governor. I mean, this to him will be the crowning accomplishment of his career. And, I've been in the weeds in this case for the last 6 weeks, commenting on it and watching it. But taking a step back, for 300 million Americans looking at this, how could you not conclude that this was a targeted prosecution of a political enemy? I mean, it's a 6-year-old case. Barely can understand it. I mean, the ball was really hidden until the very end, and it was baked from the beginning. I mean, if there was any doubt about how things were going to turn out, on Wednesday I was still optimistic that maybe the jury will see through this, but those jury instructions, that were the icing on the cake. There was no way that the jury was going to not find a guilty verdict because Judge Merchan just gave them so many ways to get there, and it was so unclear. I have no doubt they were spinning. They were so confused.
Although you did have 2 lawyers on the jury, so I don't know, the confusion argument doesn't, I don't find that terribly persuasive, particularly because, as you suggest, there was no there in the beginning here. The witnesses were not particularly credible, and so even if you had to make your way through this Rube Goldberg 55 pages worth of jury instructions, you still should have known better. But I want to start with the jury instructions and then get your perspective, being a former federal prosecutor, that if you were part of the Trump defense team and you were cobbling together an appeal, what grounds you would be particularly focused upon.
Well, I mean, I think there's half a dozen different grounds, starting from the beginning of the case to the very end at the jury instructions. I think working backward, it's this notion that the jurors did not have to identify a discrete crime associated with this alleged accounting irregularity. The New York statute is vague. However, the history shows that it should be a New York law, and it should be definitive. And it should be explained, it should be identified to the defense at the beginning of the trial so they can prepare an adequate defense. So the idea that, remember, when this case was charged a year ago, Alvin Bragg was asked right on the spot when this indictment came out, what is the corresponding crime? And he was very cagey about it. And remember, he kind of muttered something about federal election law, and he really never would commit to it. And then throughout the trial, again, they were kind of cagey. They kind of referenced federal election law, and we're all scratching our heads saying, wait a minute, you're a state prosecutor. You don't have jurisdiction over federal campaign finance laws. That's the Department of Justice and the Federal Election Commission. And yet, only in his closing arguments, which of course were after the defense rests, because the defense goes first in closing arguments in New York, then Bragg's team finally reveals that it's federal campaign finance law as one of the three hooks, another one being tax law. I mean, how could the defense possibly mount a defense in an alleged tax law scheme if never told about it? And the one witness the defense tried to call, who was a campaign finance expert who would have testified that this entire structure is not even consider a campaign contribution, he was barred from testifying. So the jury wasn't even allowed to hear the ins and outs of campaign finance law. And so that's where I would start. I think the jury instructions completely obliterated any possibility of fairness here.
So what this is going to go to it's going to be appealed, and what is that process going to look like, and how long is it going to take?
Well, Amy, it won't be quick. So right away, the defense team will appeal to the first level appellate court in New York, which is the appellate division. It'll stagnate there for a while, and then depending on how that goes, that would go to the ultimate court in New York State, which is called the Court of Appeals. At the same time, the defense can appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court because there are constitutional issues here, as well as deficiencies in New York state law. Now, normally the Supreme Court will want to see an appeal work its way through the state system first before they'll take it. There are instances where the court can reach in and take it immediately without waiting for the state. That's really unusual. And so that'll be a big question as to how extreme the U.S. Supreme Court thinks these abuses were, and coupled with the fact that we're in the middle of a federal election season, so which I think adds a absolute level of importance to this process, because we're really now further distorting Donald Trump's ability to run for president.
Right, and so that Supreme Court piece. And so, first of all, they can file appeals concurrently, right? They can file an appeal with the New York State Appellate Court, and they can also make this appeal to the Supreme Court simultaneously, yes? Correct, Dan. And so you try to get this before the court before they adjourn June 30th, which shouldn't be a problem. And the argument, and we've been talking about this for a few days because one of Mark Levin's friends, who was a former clerk for Chief Justice Warren Burger, was making this argument about the Supreme Court's common writ power, and that if they believe that there's the possibility that President Trump was deprived of due process, then they can extract this from state court directly to their court, to the highest court, and potentially adjudicate the matter. So what is, I know it's difficult to sort of ascertain, but give us your perspective on the level of severity here, such that an appeal made by Trump's lawyers to the Supreme Court could be taken up before they adjourn June 30th and perhaps overturn this conviction straight away before even he's sentenced in July.
Well, exactly. The court can reach in and actually stay the sentencing so that New York State can't kind of play any more funny business about things like ankle bracelets and travel restrictions and probation visits and things like that, which that's coming, right? The most prominent constitutional argument is under the Fifth and Sixth Amendments, which is basically a defendant's right to be informed of the charges against he or she so they can mount a proper defense. And I think that's the standout issue there, that from the beginning, this indictment never explained what Donald Trump was charged with. Throughout the trial, it was never actually alliterated until the closing arguments. And then Judge Merchan gives the jury this choice of 3 different crimes. And as long as any of them apparently are met in the jury's eyes, a conviction is possible, and they could mix and match them. So, and we might never find out what the jury's findings were. So you could have three different underlying alleged crimes here, none of which the defense were permitted to defend themselves against. So I think that's the most glaring among at least half a dozen different issues here.
Well, and it's particularly important, too, just a postscript on that, talking about Bradley Smith, the former FEC commissioner who was on Trump's witness list but wasn't called because of the constraints that Merchant put on the allowable questioning for Smith were he to be called. But that predicate crime that, as you said, we found out in the 11th hour in the prosecution's closing argument, it was not material to the 2016 election. So that's the predicate crime that was the criminal conspiracy to defraud people of an honest election in 2016 that Alvin Bragg was talking about. But even if you treat the Stormy Daniels payment as a campaign expense, Trump would not have had to report that campaign expense until after the 2016 election under the law. So it's totally immaterial.
Spot on, Dan, and that's exactly right. And that's exactly the kind of thing that Trump's witness could have explained, was that even if you take for granted that this was a campaign contribution, which I think is nonsensical, had it been declared as such, it would not have been reported until January of 2017. 2 months after the election. So there's no way this could have affected the election. And I'm sure, and again, maybe I'm giving the jury a little too much credit. I'm trying to be deferential here. But had they heard that, that would have undercut Bragg's the strongest of his three extremely weak predicate crimes. I think that should have eviscerated. That should have been the end of that string. And instead, my guess is that's what's most likely happened here, is that the jury hooked on to the federal campaign finance violation. But again, the problem is, since we don't know which of the three crimes they went with, it'll be hard to identify that on appeal now.
Well, I still think that I think they convicted him because on 34 counts of not liking him. But right, we don't know, but we do know to this point that Fifth Amendment claim that they could make before the Supreme Court is a particularly compelling one, and the facts that we were just talking about make it that much more compelling.
I think that's absolutely right. I mean, I think that before you even get to the intricacies of what we were just talking about, the mechanics of how the law works and the impact on the election and things like that, I think that constitutional issue is key here. There's others too. There's the fact that New York managed to retroactively extend the statute of limitations here. So what should have been a 5-year statute of limitations was retroactively made a 6-year, which allowed Alvin Bragg to charge this in 2023 for actions that happened in 2017. That's questionable right there. There's a number of others. But, I mean, I think you're right. That Fifth and Sixth Amendment and maybe a 14th Amendment due process argument, I think those are the most prominent. That's what the Trump team has to run with. And I hope the U.S. Supreme Court will show some common sense here and reach in, because you're not going to get it from the New York State courts. Let's face it. And what's unfortunate, though, is that, of course, now we're going to shift to a war against the U.S. Supreme Court, right? That'll be the next battle. That'll be this. They'll say this is partisan. They'll say they're helping out a fellow Republican. So we're going to go from like the flame to the fire here. But unfortunately, it's where we are.
I think it's only a matter of time before we hear from one of the jurors. And if you could sit down and ask them any questions, what would it be?
It would be, what did you understand the alleged crime to be? In plain English, what do you think happened? And what do you base that understanding on? Is it Michael Cohen's testimony? Is it the documentation? And also, where do you think the testimony of Stormy Daniels actually fit? Because that's another egregious violation there. The fact that that was all even allowed is completely irrelevant. What happened allegedly in 2006 versus accounting entries in 2017. And the fact that she was allowed to get up there and then in such graphic detail recount her allegations of what may have happened with Donald Trump, that alone should have ended the trial. The fact that Merchan allowed that was absolutely unconscionable.
What do you say to people, especially since you're, an officer of the court, former federal prosecutor, DOJ, what do you say to people who say, I have no faith in the criminal justice system, particularly under this president, and frankly, if I live in a big city under my current district attorney either? I have no confidence, no faith. I think the whole system is rigged, and is illegitimate. What do you say to that criticism?
Dan, I would say I understand that point of view, and I would just say, look, we got to have faith that we're better than this. Let's hope this is a bad instance. Let's hope that this is corrected, and let's hope that this does not happen again. And I have to maintain faith that ultimately this will be called out and fixed. Because if we go down that rabbit hole of believing that the system is just cooked, that's not a bad path. That's not a good path to go down. So I'd say hopefully cooler heads will prevail. This will be called out for the political stunt that it was, and hang in there. And I give Donald Trump a lot of credit. I can't imagine how many other people could just get out there and maintain that stamina and maintain that focus that he's going to run and win the presidency after all that's happened to him. I give him a tremendous amount of credit.
Joseph Moreno, former federal prosecutor with DOJ in the National Security Division, a former staff member with the FBI's 9/11 Review Commission, and a U.S. Army combat veteran. Joseph Moreno, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Dan. Good to be with you.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Listen to Dan and Amy on your smartphone. Download the AM 560 mobile app today at 560theanswer.com/mobile.
This is a special alert to all Americans who own a vehicle with less than 200,000 miles with an auto warranty about to expire or with no warranty coverage at all. Due to a decline in the economy, CarShield is announcing a low-cost month-to-month vehicle protection plan that is now available to the public to save any driver out-of-pocket expenses on future auto repairs. Call now to find out how you can pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. Yes, you heard that correctly. Pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. An open phone line has been established for all drivers to call for a free quick quote. Call 800-355-4107 now. Drivers who are covered will not have to pay for covered repairs again. This protection plan is at an all-time low. Additionally, drivers who activate this vehicle protection today will also receive free roadside assistance, free towing, and car rental options at no additional cost. Call us for your free quick quote today. 800-355-4107. That's 800-355-4107. What do you have to lose? Call 800-355-4107. Again, 800-355-4107.
To your question to Moreno, what question would you ask a juror if you could sit down with a juror?
Yeah.
Text from 847. My question would be, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you hate Trump? Yeah. I might have their voter card with me to say, does the fact you voted in 7 of the last 7 Democrat primaries mean that you're predisposed to not like Trump, for example? Anyway.
I bet there was not one Republican on that jury.
That's a fun topic, actually. What question would you ask the juror? Maybe we'll do that with Open Mic Friday.
Oh, yeah.
Choosing where to send your kids to school is one of the most important decisions you as parents make. Even as the school year is coming to an end, you might be thinking about where to send your kids to school in the fall. You need to know that private school might be an option for you and your family. And thanks to our friends at Half Price Schools, at halfpriceschools.com, you'll find many different private schools from around Chicagoland, offering a full year of tuition for half of the normal price. And you can take advantage of this great opportunity. It is simple. All you do is find a private school near you, purchase the tuition voucher, and prepare to send your child off to school this fall. HalfPriceSchools.com has schools across Chicagoland, including St. Andrew's Lutheran in Park Ridge, Ravenswood Christian in Chicago, Christian Liberty in Arlington Heights, St. Peter Lutheran in Schaumburg. So don't delay. Next school year will be here before you know it. Visit halfpriceschools.com today. Don't wait. Visit halfpriceschools.com today. That's halfpriceschools.com.
Balance of Nature supplements, changing the world one life at a time.
Nature is quite the artist, wouldn't you agree? The pigments that nature uses to paint its fruits and vegetables aren't there just for visual appeal. Those colorings are also essential to our nutrition. Hi. My name is Vincent Clemens, and I'm a registered dietitian nutritionist. I found that the vast majority of my clients rarely got enough servings of fruits and vegetables. Balance of Nature dietary supplements can provide more of the concentrated fruit and vegetable ingredients and these pigments. Please remember that consuming a balanced diet should be your first priority in improving your health. Nonetheless, if you're considering a nutritional supplement, then I highly recommend Balance of Nature.
Go to balanceofnature.com and get 35% off your first order, plus a free fiber and spice supplement while supplies last as a preferred customer by using discount code CHICAGO.
Are your file cabinets stuffed with work orders, invoices, bills of lading, medical records, and or compliance papers? There's a solution to clear the clutter by converting your documents into accessible digital form with the help of IDT. They can scan your documents for you or provide you with the technology to transform your workspace with easy and innovative IoT smart connected scanning technology. IoT smart connected scanning not only captures your information, it connects your documents directly to your existing digital systems, ensuring seamless integration and immediate access. Plus, it works with your existing Microsoft Office 365 technology. Convert those physical files into secure, searchable, easy-to-find digital formats. Goodbye, paper chaos. Hello, streamlined, secure digital environment. Visit ready4idt.com. That's ready, the number 4idt.com. IDT, putting paper in its place.
Are you turning 65 and thinking about Medicare? Or are you over 65 and haven't enrolled yet because you still have coverage at work? Either way, Medicare done correctly will be the best health insurance you will ever have. Imagine having an annual deductible of only $240. There are only two good things about aging, wisdom and Medicare. But to navigate the Medicare maze properly, you need a mentor. Best part, my guidance cost you nothing. Call me. I can help.
If you're tired of calling a bureaucrat at an 800 number to help you navigate Medicare, then you need a local expert on your side, your own health insurance mentor. C. Stephen Tucker from healthinsurancementors.com is someone I know and trust. He's a 30-year licensed broker who's been educating our listeners for more than a decade. Steve, how can our listeners get in touch with you?
Thanks, Dan. They can visit healthinsurancementors.com or call me directly at 630-674-1551. That's 630-674-1551.
AM 560, The Answer.
All right, coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
I'm a bit surprised how modestly negative the futures markets were in reaction to the Trump conviction. We'll start there with Chris Whalen, investment banker and editor of the Institutional Risk Analysis. We'll see how things are in New York from his perspective, too. That's at 7:37.
But now let's head into that newsroom. Here's Mike Scott.
58 degrees at 7:32. Donald Trump has now become the first American president to stand trial and be found guilty in a criminal case. In reaction this morning, New York Republican Congresswoman Claudia Tenney.
This is a disgrace to the New York justice system, a disgrace as a New York lawyer to watch this complete attempt to find a verdict, not to find justice under our laws.
Yesterday, former President Trump slammed that conviction.
This was a rigged, disgraceful trial. The real verdict is going to be November 5th by the people. And they know what happened here, and everybody knows what happened here.
Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg, who brought the case against Donald Trump, says simply he did his job.
The 12 everyday jurors vowed to make a decision based on the evidence and the law, and the evidence and the law alone.
In other news this morning, joint U.S.-British airstrikes targeting Yemen's Houthi rebels killed 16 and wounded 35, confirmed by both the U.S. and Britain. The German government says Ukraine can use weaponry it has provided against attacks from positions over the Russian border. On Thursday, U.S. President Joe Biden gave Kyiv a green light also to strike back with American weapons at Russian military assets. The woman who admitted to helping her mother brutally kill a pregnant Chicago teen in 2019 was sentenced to 30 years in prison. Desiree Figueroa was sentenced yesterday. She and her mother were accused of strangling 19-year-old Marlon Ochoa Lopez and then cutting her baby boy from her womb. A report by Chicago's Inspector General accuses the Chicago Police Department of not being prepared for mass gatherings ahead of the DNC in August. The report comes from IG Deborah Witzberg. Chicago Police Superintendent Larry Snelling angrily denied the allegations in the report, throwing some cold water on Witzberg's opinion. And despite garnering strong support, bipartisan support from lawmakers in Springfield, legislation that would make significant changes to the state's embattled prisoner review board was not called for a vote in the Illinois House before the chamber adjourned this week. amid ongoing controversy with the PRB, including a recent high-profile tragedy where a boy was murdered by an offender just hours after his release. The Senate passed that legislation. The House refused to take up the bill that would enhance protections for victims by ensuring that they are notified when prisoners are up for release. Cubs lost to the Brew Crews 6-4, while the White Sox take on the Brewers later on tonight. The news, a service of Del Bacchio Marchetti Group of At Properties, Christie's International Real Estate, experts in the northwest suburbs and Chicago. Call 708-828-0000. And a check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Mike Gallagher knows where the bigotry lies.
Democrat governor of one of America's most populous states, New York.
Young black kids growing up in the Bronx who don't even know what the word computer is. They don't know. They don't know these things.
I have often said that the Democrats are the real racists. They're the condescending, patronizing bigots who think less of black people.
The Mike Gallagher Show, weekdays at 9, right before Dennis Prager at 11 on AM 560. The Answer.
Parents, grandparents, you might want to be sitting down because this is amazing news. Imagine the student in your family not asking you for money to pay for college, or better yet, not getting into years and years of debt. How's this possible? Scholarships.com, a trusted and widely used scholarship platform that helps your student find scholarships and navigate the financial aid process. Get help to pay for college through a personalized list of scholarships that your student actually qualifies for. Better yet, every scholarship is vetted to ensure accuracy. And now the best part, drum roll please, it's absolutely free. Go to scholarships.com today. Both students and parents can join for free. And within minutes, receive your list of personalized scholarship matches. Check out the wealth of information and resources available at no cost. And read the fantastic reviews from other scholarship winners. Scholarships.com has helped over 23 million students and families find scholarships to help pay for college. And will help you too. Join scholarships.com today for free. That's scholarships.com.
Are you turning 65 and thinking about Medicare? Or are you over 65 and haven't enrolled yet because you still have coverage at work? Either way, Medicare done correctly will be the best health insurance you will ever have. Imagine having an annual deductible of only $240. There are only two good things about aging, wisdom and Medicare. But to navigate the Medicare maze properly, you need a mentor. Best part, my guidance cost you nothing. Call me. I can help.
If you're tired of calling a bureaucrat at an 800 number to help you navigate Medicare, then you need a local expert on your side, your own health insurance mentor. C. Stephen Tucker from healthinsurancementors.com is someone I know and trust. He's a 30-year licensed broker who's been educating our listeners for more than a decade. Steve, how can our listeners get in touch with you?
Thanks, Dan. They can visit healthinsurancementors.com or call me directly at 630-674-1551. That's 630-674-1551.
Balance of Nature supplements, changing the world one life at a time.
Nature is quite the artist, wouldn't you agree? The pigments that nature uses to paint its fruits and vegetables aren't there just for visual appeal. Those colorings are also essential to our nutrition. Hi, my name is Vincent Clemens, and I'm a registered dietitian nutritionist. I found that the vast majority of my clients rarely got enough servings of fruits and vegetables. Balance of Nature dietary supplements can provide more of the concentrated fruit and vegetable ingredients and these pigments. Please remember that consuming a balanced diet should be your first priority in improving your health. Nonetheless, if you're considering a nutritional supplement, then I highly recommend Balance of Nature.
Go to balanceofnature.com and get 35% off your first order, plus a free fiber and spice supplement while supplies last as a preferred customer by using discount code CHICAGO.
Now there's a simple, easy, and effective way to clean your nose and protect your health. It's called Navage. Navage, available at Navage.com.
740. Let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. Service of Windy City Safes. Windy City Safes is Chicagoland's only Liberty Safe dealer. With Liberty Safes, you're not just getting a safe, you're getting peace of mind. Visit the Niles showroom or call 224-LOCKBOX. Online, of course, at WindyCitySafes.com. SouthwestSide.com. Southwest Side report of an accident being dealt with in the city. It's at Ogden and near Ogden and 65th. It's actually on Central Avenue, but a lot of the intersections there are all gummed up with this ongoing work. A SWAT situation on the Southwest Side, Princeton Park, 95th between Wentworth and Lafayette, has been gumming up the works all morning long. Lots of buses are rerouted as you travel through that area. Reagan right now, I-88 jams solid Roosevelt to the tri-state. We're looking at the Dan Ryan now inbound, tough and slow, 47 up through Roosevelt. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast. Partly sunny and warmer, high near 80. Currently 58. Your next news update at 8. Chicago's Morning Answer continues now on AM 560 The Answer.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Health Quest Radio with Dr. David Kolbaba. Saturday mornings at 11. Visit healthquestradio.com.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. This was getting some discussion after the verdict yesterday. When you heard that Trump's WinRed donation site was down because of all of the people logging on to make a contribution as they're striking the blow against what happened in Manhattan. Sean McGuire is a partner at Sequoia Capital, which is a big private equity concern. He took to Twitter to announce he was donating $300,000 to Trump. And he writes, "I'm prepared to lose friends." As if that's some great sacrifice. Oh, the educated classes. We talked earlier about why that boomerang effect that MAGA world thought would be coming at some point over the last 8 years has never really materialized. And one of the things many people don't appreciate is the mentality of the quote-unquote educated and how much they prize being au courant and popular and well-received at the country club over, say, other people's constitutional rights. How truly barbaric they are. Sean McGuire going on to explain himself. Back in 2016, I drank the media Kool-Aid and was scared out of my mind about Trump. So I donated to Hillary Clinton's campaign and voted for her. By 2020, I was disillusioned and didn't vote. I didn't like either option. Now in 2024, I believe this is one of the most important elections of my lifetime, and I'm supporting Trump. I know that I'll lose some friends for this. Some will refuse to do business with me. If you can make a $300,000 donation to a candidate, you're probably beyond being touched by people who won't do business with you. But I digress. Okay. The media will probably demonize me. I doubt many know who you are, as they have so many others before me. But despite this, I still believe it's the right thing to do. I refuse to live in a society where people are afraid to speak. Well, now he does. And, I'm in the Buckley School. You got to give people room to come over to your side. But I'm hardly impressed by this display of self-styled courage. And interestingly, too, this is a long essay he wrote laying out his position. Apparently, he used to work in national security in some capacity. Okay. And so he's found Biden's foreign policy disastrous, but that's a grand insight, and particularly offended because he's very pro-Israel by his treatment of Israel in terms of the response post the 10/7 terrorist attack, but also the Afghanistan withdrawal and all of the other catastrophes, right. The helping Iran nuclearize and so forth. The educated classes, what are we to do about them? So Sean McGuire, because he made a $300,000 donation and he's offering his little Jerry Maguire moment there, gets a lot of attention, but who should get a lot of attention instead, if you want to appreciate this moment, is one of the underappreciated assets of American intellectualism over the last 60 years, Thomas Sowell. Thomas Sowell writing yesterday, actually a quote of his resurfacing. It doesn't matter what rights you have under the Constitution of the United States if the government can punish you for exercising those rights. And it doesn't matter what limits the Constitution puts on government officials' power if they can exceed those limits without any adverse consequences. In other words, the Constitution cannot protect you if you don't protect the Constitution with your votes against anyone who violates it. Those government officials who want more power are not going to stop unless they get stopped. As long as millions of Americans vote on the basis of who gives them free stuff, look for their freedom and all our freedom to be eroded away bit by bit. Our children and grandchildren may yet come to see the Constitution as just some quaint words from the past that people once took seriously. Right. Well, that's where we're at. And it's why it's something that Sowell understands and that the left understands. That has power, that belief that Sowell is talking about, the understanding that our rights are written in paper, but they are hard fought in terms of existence generation after generation. It was a point that Reagan used to make all the time as well. And it's why you hear your rights will be taken away. He'll never leave office. Our democracy's at stake. He'll shred the Constitution endlessly from the other side. And what do we say in response? Look at how much groceries are. Look at how much filling up your car is. And we think that's being, we're so much more practical. Yeah, but the power of this idea of government and the kind of society you live in, that matters. And so you have to engage at that level too. And you can't let them project onto you all the things that they are, which is what Republicans continue to do to their fail. Because particularly when it comes to the educated classes, those who think they're enlightened and those who are insulated because of their money, well, now I'm an elder. I'm a community elder. I'm an important person. I'm a thinker. I'm a high information voter. I'm smart. I know things. I'm a leader. And so I'm thinking about the big things like how society should be ordered and protecting our democracy, whatever that means. I have no idea, but I'm just going to say it because that's what I hear other people saying because I'm so smart, I'm so enlightened, I'm so well-read. There are none of those things. But those appeals to saving the world, protecting our democracy, have great currency within those educated classes. And it's, I would argue, our failure as conservatives and as Trump supporters over the last 8 years to address that, which is one of the reasons that boomerang effect that was anticipated never really materialized. And it still hasn't. And we don't know if it will between now and November. For more on all of this, the esoteric and the practical, we're pleased to be joined by Chris Whalen, investment banker, chairman of Whalen Global Advisors, author of Ford Men from Inspiration Enterprise, and editor for the Institutional Risk Analyst. Chris, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hey, my pleasure, Dan. Good speech, by the way. I like that.
Thank you very much. Well, I mean, you're a man of letters. What's your perspective on the educated class? You know, we're talking about the suburbs around metropolitan areas that Trump lost in swing states, which is why he lost in 2020, and which is why the election very much hangs in the balance, even had he not been convicted in 2024. So what do you say about them?
Well, you nailed it. I think there is a certain upper class in this country that is fascinated by the old liberal narrative. But what they don't realize is that the media, which they control, is misreporting the election. In other words, if you really talk to people and say, what's important to you? It's inflation. That's the issue that's going to beat Joe Biden. And sure, you know, we're pissed off about the way they are misusing the law in New York and punishing Donald Trump for his various offenses. But ultimately, that's good for him. As Jim Rickard said this morning, I'm voting for the convicted felon. And I think every Republican that's ambulatory in this country is going to vote in November. So once again, the Democrats have misplayed the hand. They don't understand why this man is so popular. I'm going fishing in a couple of weeks up in Maine. And last time I did my straw poll at Lean Lodge, they picked Trump in 2016 overwhelmingly. I can't wait to hear what they say this year.
Are you surprised? I mean, just on the practical matter, Amy and I were talking about this off air. I expected the markets to react pretty negatively to this occurrence yesterday, and at least the futures, it was modestly negative, but nothing too heavy.
No, again, it's going to help them. I think business people from Elon Musk to the folks you were talking about are all going to vote for Trump because they see that the Democrats do not have a plan for governing the country. We have a dilettante as Secretary of the Treasury who would rather, talk about global warming than the fact that she's borrowing 25% of what we're spending this year. The U.S. is headed for debt default and an IMF debt restructuring. Wouldn't that be fun? And I'm not sure Trump is ready to deal with this either. Whoever wins in November has a problem because we cannot continue this way for more than another couple of years. We're going to have to raise taxes or cut spending. That's it. And I don't think this country is ready to have that conversation. I'm reissuing my first book, Inflated, next year, and editing that book is such fun because what has changed in 15 years? Nothing. It's only gotten worse. And both parties. Plus, we have crypto. Now, is crypto the answer? No. No, it's a market controlled by grifters. But the point is, Americans do feel the need for change. They do feel the need for alternatives. I don't think I got to listen to Mark Halperin this week at a private conversation that was hosted by some friends of mine in Washington. I don't even think Joe's going to make it to election day. It sounds like he's done. So it's going to be Donald Trump versus Kamala Harris. She will not step down. Obama and Nancy Pelosi will not be able to clean up the mess the way they did in 2020 when they got the other candidates to withdraw. And this is going to be a fiasco for the Democrats. And you're going to be there. It's going to be in Chicago.
Well, what do you mean he's not going to step down, but he's not going to make it to November? What does that mean?
No, I think the party's going to basically accept the fact that he can't function anymore. He's reached the end of the road. And Kamala Harris will be the candidate. They can't say no to her. Come on.
Well, don't you? I mean, he'll make it to the first debate at the end of this month.
We'll see. We'll see, guys. When you reach that point in your life, they don't know. I remember before my dad passed away last year, some days he had great days. I would have put him on television. Other days he didn't. He wasn't even there.
Well, they just
that's where Joe Biden is now.
Yeah, but they just have to pick their spots now. He has to survive 2 days, basically, the two debates, because otherwise you just
a range of days.
Well,
he's got the DNC too, though.
Well, yeah, but you could tape a speech. I mean, there's ways. I mean, look, I'm not going full Dave here, but there are ways around this. I'm serious. There are ways around this for a guy or his the person who has power of attorney over him, Jill Biden, to say we're not going anywhere, and all we have to do is these 3 dates, and we'll figure our way around them, and then we'll spend $500 million saying you can't have a convicted felon in the White House, and we'll take our chances.
That's right. It's like Donald not taking the stand in this farce, right? So Joe shouldn't take the stand.
Right.
But it reminds me, remember years ago, National Lampoon had a wonderful essay called The Telejester, which basically said that Richard Nixon had a key in his back and they had to wind him up.
Right. Yeah, well, life could be imitating. Life could be imitating National Lampoon's art for what that's worth. So, where are things? We're still clicking along. It's slow growth. Don't call it it's slow growth, high inflation, but don't call it stagflation. And 2/3 of Americans think things are on the wrong track economically, and Biden's under 40%. But we're still muddling along, and we don't seem to have any real urgency about changing our course, as you were just talking about, and as Thomas Sowell was mentioning, a vote on the basis of giving us free stuff. That still seems to be the order of the day.
Well, yes and no. I think there's a growing awareness among business people, the people who are supporting Donald Trump, that we can't keep going on for longer. And also, I think there's an awareness that the increase in interest rates by the Fed over the last couple of years was not so much about fighting inflation as it was about normalizing interest rates to levels that actually work. So if you look at the deficit today, you shouldn't cut rates at all until Congress deals with the deficit. And that's what a Fed chairman who has a couple of huevos would say. Powell's not like that. But if Trump wins, I think you'll see a couple members of the FOMC resign. And then maybe Powell cuts rates in December and he also leaves too. And maybe on his way out the door for the history books, he says, look, guys, we can't cut rates anymore. You've got to do something with the deficit. Because this economy is running hot, guys, and it may look okay from the surface, but underneath, what do we have going on? Commercial real estate, which to me is the analog for the deflation in the farm sector a century ago. Imagine if we start seeing substantial bank failures next year because of commercial real estate. I think that's what we got in the cards. And equities are crazy. We haven't had any IPO activity in a couple of years. Mm-hmm. So investors are paying more for the same thing. Look at banks. JP Morgan at 2 times book. Okay. I don't think that's great value. There's a lot of deals out there with small banks, but I think, unfortunately, those shares could go lower because of concerns about commercial.
Chris Whalen, investment banker, chairman of Whalen Global Advisors, author of Ford Men from Inspiration to Enterprise, and editor of the Institutional Risk Analyst. Chris Whalen, thanks as always.
Have a great day, guys.
Thanks, you too. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
It's what Chicago is talking about. It's Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy on AM 560. The Answer.
Signature Bank is Chicago's fastest growing independently owned business bank. It's a bank where relationships still matter. I'm Dan Proft, and I know this because Signature Bank is my business bank.
Hi, I'm Tony Dreyfus, founder and president of Metropolis Coffee Company and a proud new customer of Signature Bank. We're a 19-year-old specialty coffee roaster located in the heart of Chicago. Some of your favorite restaurants and cafes serve our coffee. As a small business manufacturer, we understand the importance of working with the right bank, and that's why we made the move to Signature Bank. We were tired of the impersonal service that our large bank had provided. A friend referred us to Signature Bank, and their team was on site to understand our operations firsthand. They provided us the working capital to continue our successful business operations and to fuel our ambitions for innovation and growth. We now have the flexibility to grow at our own pace. That personal touch, you can't find that at a large bank, but we found it at Signature, and we can't thank them enough.
Signature Bank helps local businesses succeed. Let Signature Bank turn your business vision into reality. Visit signaturebank.bank. Member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Chronic pain blows. You're miserable, and guess what? The people around you are miserable. Hi, Amy Jacobson here. Don't suffer any longer if you have knee, shoulder, back, or hip pain. QC Kinetics is the nation's leader in regenerative medicine. Folks, I'm talking lasting joint pain relief. There's no surgery, there's no drugs, there's no downtime. QC Kinetics advanced treatments harness your own body's ability to restore and repair damaged joint tissue. So you can walk, run, hike, play golf, pickleball, and move again pain-free. QC Kinetics is under the leadership of former orthopedic surgeon Dr. Mitchell Scheinkup, a pioneer in regenerative medicine. Their advanced protocols have enabled tens of thousands of patients to reclaim their mobility. Call QC Kinetics for a free consultation, now open Saturdays. The number is 312-809-5955. That's 312-809-5955. Again, 312-809-5955.
AM 560. The Answer.
All right, coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
We'll talk Trump trial, Trump conviction implications with National Review's Rich Lowry at 8:08.
Now into the newsroom we go. Here's Mike Scott.
Ongoing police activity continues on the south side along 95th Street. We'll have an update. WIND Chicago
This
News Time,
is a Fox
8.
News alert. We'll hear from the former president turned convicted felon in 2 hours. I'm Dave Anthony. He just posted on Truth Social, it can happen to me. It could happen to you. Again, calling the case a witch hunt, and the former president's supporters agree.
They did it to Jesus Christ, and they crucified him.
So it's the same thing a couple of thousand years later.
Republicans in Congress also denouncing the guilty verdict at the Trump trial in New York. House Speaker Mike Johnson tells Fox.
This is a purely political exercise, not a legal one, and everybody knows that. They know intuitively that it's wrong, and the people are outraged.
Trump lawyer Todd Blanche tells Fox they will appeal.
You're talking about a man that's been indicted 4 times in 1 year in four different jurisdictions. 4 different jurisdictions, running for president and winning, and we're going to fight.
Sentencing is set for July 11th, days before Republicans nominate former President Trump for a Biden 2024 rematch. Now, the president's campaign put out a statement that no one is above law, and that former President Trump mistakenly believed there would be no consequences for breaking the law for his personal gain. Ex-Trump lawyer Michael Cohen, who was the prosecution's star witness, tells MSNBC,
"It's accountability. It's exactly what America needs right now."
The charges against the former president centered around reimbursements made to Cohen for 2016 payments to adult film star Stormy Daniels to stay quiet about an alleged affair. As for Daniels, her husband told CNN she is still processing the news of the verdict and feels a little vindicated over the outcome.
That's Fox's Tanya J. Powers. We just got an update to the economy. A gauge of inflation the Federal Reserve tracks closely as it keeps pausing the plan to cut interest rates. The personal consumption expenditures rose as expected 0.3% in April.
Year over year, it came in. This is the headline PCE price index, 2.7%, and that's in line with expectations and the same exact reading that we had a month ago.
Fox Business Network, Cheryl Casoni. On Wall Street, stock futures are now rising. America's listening to Fox News.
8:02 on AM 560. The Answer. Good morning. I'm Mike Scott. A heavy police presence reported on Chicago's South Side this morning. Police have continued to shut down 95th and 96th Streets between Wentworth and Lafayette. Chicago FBI office says agents are assisting local police looking for an individual who displayed a weapon after becoming aware of the presence of law enforcement. The governor's office confirms J.B. Pritzker will be giving the keynote speech at the Wisconsin Democrat Convention in Milwaukee next week. Pritzker has also helped the Democrat Party of Wisconsin financially, donating millions to the party over the past few election cycles. Embattled CTA President Dorval Carter Jr. again defending himself against calls to resign.
As an African-American man, this city has a history of attacking and trying to bring down their African-American leaders.
Speaking to a city council committee yesterday, Carter's defense comes after 29 of 50 aldermen signed a resolution last week calling for Carter to either resign or be fired due to CTA failures. Cubs lost to Milwaukee 6-4. White Sox will visit Milwaukee next. Eric Fetty starting for the Sox tonight. Bears apparently will be featured on the HBO show Hard Knocks. First episode will air August 6th. And Fighting Illini Baseball opens regional NCAA baseball tournament action play in Lexington, Kentucky today against Indiana State. The news, a service of Windy City Safes, Chicagoland's only Liberty Safe dealer. With Liberty Safes, you're not just getting a safe, you're getting peace of mind. Visit the Niles showroom. Call 224-LOCKBOX. Online at windycitysafes.com. Time for the AM 560 Business Beat, a service of Signature Bank. Visit signaturebank.bank for all your commercial banking needs. Now the latest from the Fox Business Network.
I'm Stuart Varney, and this is the Fox Business Report.
Wall Street's focus today turns to inflation, the PCE, Personal Consumption Expenditures Index for April. Shoppers are still buying at Costco. Its sales at existing stores rose 6% in the recent quarter, and its earnings topped forecasts. Though its revenue, the money it brings in, was disappointing, and the stock's losing ground. Costco did not reveal plans to raise its membership fee. It hasn't raised the price of a membership since 2017. Cybersecurity company Zscaler's quarter was better than expected. The stock's up more than 15%. And a major hedge fund could be going public next year. The Wall Street Journal says Bill Ackman's Pershing Square is selling a stake in the investment firm. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Ginny Cosola, invested in you.
Charlie Kirk says it's a narrow margin.
Roughly 244 million Americans will be eligible to vote, but 99.5% will not be deciders. They won't vote or will always vote the same way. Both campaigns are now obsessed with 6 states: Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin.
The Charlie Kirk Show. Afternoons at 1, right before Sebastian Gorka at 3 on AM 560. The Answer.
Hi, it's Sean Thompson here. You know when you're at the mall and you go to those directory signs, the one that says "You are here"? Well, imagine that directory is a map of your preparation for retirement. Would you know where you are? My friend Tom Fortino at Alpha Wealth Group is offering you the opportunity to not only find yourself on that map, but also find the route toward a successful retirement. He calls it his retirement roadmap. You'll get an analysis of where you are right now, whether you're at risk if the market drops again, whether you're taking advantage of the latest tax changes, and much, much more. To get an idea where you stand on the road to retirement, call my friend Tom Fortino at the Alpha Wealth Group today at 630-934-1855. That's 630-934-1855. And ask for the retirement roadmap, or visit alphawealthgroup.com. And don't forget to listen to the Alpha Wealth Hour Saturday mornings right here on AM 560, The Answer at 9 a.m.
Advisory services through Retirement Wealth Advisors, LLC, and SEC Registered Investment Advisor. Insurance and annuities offered through Alpha Wealth Group, licensed in Illinois.
Balance of Nature's fruits and veggies supplements. Changing the world, one life at a time.
My name is Bob Corbin. I'm 55 years old, and I like to tackle life every single day. My life's never boring. I make sure of that, whether we're gardening, back at the pond fishing, running a tractor and moving dirt, playing rock and roll music. There's always something to do around here. I've been taking Balance of Nature for about 5 years. I feel absolutely phenomenal. Balance of Nature helps me feel better. It's just that simple.
Make a splash into summer with Balance of Nature supplements. Go to balanceofnature.com and sign up as a new preferred customer to get 35% off your first order, plus a free fiber and spice supplement with free shipping and our money-back guarantee. That's 1-800-246-8751. Hurry, this offer is only available while supplies last. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751 and get this limited time offer by using discount code CHICAGO.
For anyone living with everyday aches and pains, there's a lot of things you can try. You know, tough it out, bite the bullet, grin and bear it. Or you can try something that has helped so many other people, Relief Factor. Relief Factor is a 100% drug-free daily supplement that helps your body fight pain naturally. Developed by doctors, Relief Factor uses a unique formula of natural ingredients that addresses the inflammation where pain starts. And Relief Factor doesn't just mask pain for a short time. It helps reduce or even eliminate it all day, every day. Wherever you're hurting, your back, neck, joints, or muscles, in about 3 weeks or less, you'll see a difference and rediscover what it's like to feel better and live better. So if everyday pain is affecting your life, don't go with the mind over matter approach. Try Relief Factor instead. Go to ReliefFactor.com or call 1-800-4-RELIEF and save on your first order. That's 1-800-4-RELIEF. Fight pain naturally with Relief Factor.
It's 8:08. Let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. Kennedy inbound, 1 hour. O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange. The Ike, an hour 5 from 390 into the old post office. Northbound 55, due to earlier debris on the roadway, you've got big delays from Route 53 up to the Veterans Toll Road, I-355. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast with Steve Williams.
Partly sunny, very nice day. The high today 80. Clouds tonight, a shower moving in toward dawn, low 62. Clouds and cooler, rain, thunderstorm tomorrow morning. Shower in spots for the afternoon. The high tomorrow at 67. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560. The Answer.
58 right now. Next news at 8:30. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560. The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. So in advance of yesterday's verdict, what was the left doing? What was the Biden campaign engaged in? From the commencement speech that Mr. 10% gave at Morehouse College to his wife's appearance on The View to
him rallying up the black votes in Philadelphia.
Yeah,
with a big drum band.
With this appeal.
What do you think he would have done on January 6th if black Americans had stormed it? Think about this. What do you think would have happened if black Americans had stormed the Capitol? I don't think he'd be talking about pardons. It's the same guy who wanted to tear gas you as you peacefully protested George Floyd's murder. The same guy who still calls the Central Park 5.
Yeah, we don't, the example after example. But the audience response, like at Morehouse College, was rather muted, partly because of sort of the inartful, dare I say, dog whistling that Joe Biden is doing, the obsequious, patronizing way in which he is making an appeal for the black voters he's lost to come back home.
That doesn't work.
And part of it too is I don't know what's happening in these big cities, which a disproportionate percentage of black Americans live, urban centers. And since you mentioned George Floyd, and we were treated to all these George Floyd remembrances a week ago, including a virtual riot in New York City where people are arrested, violence during the George Floyd Remembrance Parade. How ironic. What's tragically ironic is the death of Jamal Mitchell, the murder of Minneapolis police officer Jamal Mitchell yesterday, killed in an ambush shooting. Somebody pretended to be a shooting victim. Officers arrived. He opened fire.
And the gunman's dead, too, now.
4 dead, including Minneapolis police officer Jamal Mitchell, who, by the way, is a black gentleman.
Yeah, he was on the force for about a year and a half.
So people
loved him.
This is where it gets really interesting and complicated in terms of the impact of the Trump conviction politically, is because of all the dynamics where people actually live, and not just the proverbial Republican talking point on inflation, but really in terms of quality of life, and particularly for those in urban centers, the lack of public safety. And the answer is sort of Trump is a racist. My appeal for you to stay with me or come back to me is the other guy's a racist. But the other guy's a known quantity. And the other guy was the same guy who made a commitment to historically black colleges and signed the Second Chances Act. And so it's just becoming a tougher and tougher sell. And it's sort of revealed in those rare moments where Biden is actually on the campaign trail and he's trying to make that appeal, and he's getting basically crickets in response. So can those untraditional and perhaps just in this fleeting moment, well, we don't know, Republicans or those Trump supporters from minority communities hailing from urban centers more than make up for any squishy, low information suburban voters who may be moved by the onslaught of we can't have a convicted felon in the White House that is to come. For more on this, we're pleased to be joined by Rich Lowry, editor of National Review, author of The Case for Nationalism, How It Made Us Powerful, United, and Free. Rich, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So all this time, Republicans have been trying to figure out a way to bring more minority families into our ranks. And now we have people like Greg Abbott leading the way by instituting discipline in his own party with respect to promotion of school choice in Texas, and that will disproportionately benefit lower and middle income Latino families, which is a significant population in Texas, of course. And we have this dynamic within the black community, particularly with black men, according to polling, where younger generation black Americans are just not buying this race hustle rap that Joe Biden and the Democrats continue to sell. I mean, is it possible that we could have, as I was saying, black and Latino families in urban centers more than make up for the suburban problem that Trump in particular has?
Yeah, it's possible. I would say the Latino thing, I have more faith in the Latino thing than in the black voters, just because the Latino thing is a trend. Trump lost by 40 points Latino voters to Hillary in 2016, then 23 points to Biden, and he's obviously going to do better than that. And we see it in the state level polling in Arizona and Nevada, where he's doing much better than he is in the blue wall states. Still ahead in most polls in the blue wall states, but in Arizona he's ahead about 5, and Nevada you can't get him a poll finding him leading by less than 9 or 10. It's really extraordinary. So, but the black thing could be real too. There's a Wall Street Journal poll a month or so ago that showed, I think it was 30% of black men definitely voting for Trump or considering voting for Trump. Now, that feels high to me, but clearly this is a real thing, or the Biden people wouldn't be as freaked out over it. And Trump doesn't really need black voters to vote for him. He just needs them to sit it out. If turnout's not as high in Philadelphia as it usually is, he could win Pennsylvania, and Pennsylvania could be the whole election. And the final irony, Biden is holding up in the blue wall states because the blue wall states are whiter and older than the Sun Belt states.
Right.
Which if you said this at any other time, the Republicans going to struggle because there's so many old white voters in those states. He's doing much better with the more heavily minority states. You would say, what? You're crazy.
That's a great point. No, it's a great point. I mean, that's exactly, well, that's what's happened to the suburbs, and that's how urban centers, the suburbs surrounding urban centers like Milwaukee and Chicago have, gone south so quickly over the last decade.
Yeah, and it's also it's a rejection of the left. So just think again, the example of a Latino hard hat construction worker. Is that guy woke? Right? He may not agree with us on most things, but he's not woke. And the way I think about it, if you ask the average Latino male, are you with an traditional FDR Democrat or the average Republican? They're with that FDR Democrat who is patriotic, who had traditional virtues, values, and just wanted a bigger government, right? But if you ask them, are you with a woke Democrat or the average Republican, then they're like, no, I'm probably with the average Republican. I think that's what's happened. And Trump's not the average Republican also. It's not as though you're voting for, Mitt Romney. You're voting for this guy who has this image of strength, who's, can be kind of crude, who speaks in a plain-spoken way. And I think especially a lot of working class males, black and Latino, are like I like that guy.
Yeah, for sure. Trump has a press conference today to offer more commentary on what happened and what's going to happen. What do you think he should say? How should he position himself after yesterday?
Well, I think what he said briefly after the verdict yesterday was appropriate. I mean, it was rigged. It's a rigged process from beginning to end, and he has to make the case that this is a political prosecution. A lot of polling has showed more than 50% believe that. Now, they also believe Trump did something wrong, so the public's a little ambiguous, which why I think it'll ultimately be a wash. And then pivot to the election, right? I mean, he should use these bully pulpit moments to, he has to defend himself in this case, but then talk about inflation, talk about the border, talk about the things people really care about.
Now, a lot of people are still processing what happened yesterday. What do you understand the crime to be?
Isn't that amazing? Yes. That's a question?
Yeah.
And we don't know the answer to it. So, there's the business records, which were allegedly falsified. I say allegedly because I think there's an arguable case that they were correct. I mean, Cohen was a lawyer. This is the kind of agreement a lawyer forges for you. But let's say they were false. There still needs to be an intent to defraud. And who is being defrauded by this? No one. And then it has to be a felony because there's a second crime, which, there's a Chinese menu. Maybe it's misleading the tax authorities. Maybe it's a violation of federal campaign finance law. Maybe it's a violation of New York campaign finance law. And we don't know. Donald Trump was found guilty of 34 felonies, and we don't know entirely what he was guilty of. That's crazy. That's against every principle of Anglo-American legal system has developed over the centuries. So I think this thing will fail on appeal, but not until 2025 or 2026. And they just wanted that convicted felon label on him, which unfortunately now they got.
Do you think this the conviction impacts the decision he makes for his running mate in any way?
I don't think so. I kind of think Marco, going back to the first part of our conversation, Marco Rubio would be the strongest politically because he can go to those Latino voters and campaign in Spanish, and has a background that resonates with them. But the problem is you can't have two people from Florida. Now there's some argument that you just can't have two people from the same state when the electors meet, which is in December 14th. So Rubio could stay in Florida, Trump could stay in Florida, and then if they win, Rubio can resign from the Senate and move to Nashville for a month or whatever it is.
Or Trump could establish residency in New Jersey or something, right?
Yeah, I don't think Trump would. He wants to be the top dog, so I don't think he'd be the one to move. But anyway, it would create sort of legitimacy questions and arguments that this Rubio's not really qualified. So I think that just this makes it a little harder because you could have people saying, "Oh, yeah, I'm not sure we've heard it yet, but he's a convicted felon; they can't be on the ballot in state X or state Y." So I don't think he's going to want the further static. So maybe at the margins it affects the Veep choice that was for Rubio in particular, but I'm not sure it does with anyone else.
Who do you think he's going to pick?
I don't know. I kind of think. It wouldn't shock me if the names we've heard, none of them are picked, right? It would be a classic Trump thing. He likes the drama, he likes the theater, and it may be that Doug Burgum, who just based on chatter, might be the favorite at the moment, is in the worst possible position because he's just being used as the shiny object. But you hear about Burgum, and then there are 4 senators, Tom Cotton, whom I really admire, Marco, who we talked about, J.D. Vance, who I wouldn't sleep on, and Tim Scott. Again, I think Marco, the Florida residency aside, would be the strongest politically. I would like Cotton most, sort of substantively, being there and being ready to be president, but it could be someone else.
Rich Lowry, editor of National Review, author of The Case for Nationalism, How It Made Us Powerful, United, and Free. Rich, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, and he joined us on our Turnkey.pro answer line.
Connect with Dan and Amy using the AM 560 mobile app. Download it today at 560theanswer.com/mobile.
Parents, grandparents, you might want to be sitting down because this is amazing news. Imagine the student in your family not asking you for money to pay for college, or better yet, not getting into years and years of debt. How's this possible? Scholarships.com, a trusted and widely used scholarship platform that helps your student find scholarships and navigate the financial aid process. Get help to pay for college through a personalized list of scholarships that your student actually qualifies for. Better yet, every scholarship is vetted to ensure accuracy. And now the best part, drum roll please, it's absolutely free. Go to scholarships.com today. Both students and parents can join for free. And within minutes, receive your list of personalized scholarship matches. Check out the wealth of information and resources available at no cost. And read the fantastic reviews from other scholarship winners. Scholarships.com has helped over 23 million students and families find scholarships to help pay for college. And will help you too. Join scholarships.com today for free. That's scholarships.com.
Oil investments involve a high degree of risk and actual results may vary. Oil and natural gas keep going up as the Russia conflict escalates. Get in on the next major oil boom now and help the U.S. with your patriotic investment that can potentially pay you monthly income for up to 20 or more years. That's the sound of a producing oil well and the sound of a smart investment. If you're an SEC accredited investor and have at least $25,000 liquid now, you can take advantage of Encore Energy's projects and a huge tax savings for this year. If you invest in oil and natural gas, you're allowed to write off nearly 100% of your investment in the first year. Goldman Sachs is projecting oil to go up to $100 a barrel, and natural gas is the fuel of the future and trading at record prices. Call 800-287-6691. Encore Energy is a major investor and experienced operator in its core area of operations. Call now and learn how to deduct 100% of your investment and create 20 or more years of potential monthly income. Call 800-287-6691. That's 800-287-6691.
Hi, this is Randy Donnelly from Donnelly Auctions in Union, Illinois with my current want list for upcoming auctions. Guns and military items are always at the top of my list, but I have buyers for vintage automobiles and motorcycles, old gas pumps and automotive signs, Do you have pinball machines and coin-operated games like slot machines, jukeboxes? How about Coke machines and soda machines? Also, neon signs, antique phonographs and music boxes, old toys, especially science fiction and Star Wars, cowboy and Native American collections like barbershop, ice cream parlor, and saloon items. We'll take one item or an entire collection. We sell it all. Call me before you sell your items outright because you could be leaving a fortune on the table. And you won't know until you call me at 815-923-7000 or send me an email at DonleyAuctions.com. My job is to get you top dollar for your collections, so call me at 815-923-7000. I'm Randy Donley, and I'll see you at the auction.
A storm is on the horizon, and you need to keep the lights on no matter what. Your business relies on the power being on 24/7. It's the lifeblood of your data and computer systems. Weather-related outages from the power company are not acceptable. Your need for a source of power that's reliable 24/7, along with round-the-clock service that can dispatch technicians to your site immediately, is mission critical. Your business needs Charles Equipment Energy Systems on speed dial. These are the big boys, not residential or solar, but reliable industrial generators for emergency backup or events. When you need more than a 100-foot extension cord plugged into a small engine generator, call Charles Equipment Energy Systems. They keep the lights on with rental generators for job sites or power outages. The storm season is here. Plan ahead. Call now to prepare generators for sudden damage and potential power outages. Call 630-834-6000. That's 630-834-6000 or charlesequipment.com. charlesequipment.com.
AM 560, The Answer.
Open mic! Open mic Friday! Call in now! Open mic Friday!
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. It's that time of the week, Open Mic Friday, taking your calls with comments, compliments, concerns, criticisms, general crack pottery. We'll take it all at 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. Open Mic Friday sponsored by turnkey.pro.
Hence we begin with the CEO and owner.
We will begin with David Kolsak. And a programming note, we're also soliciting questions. Questions you would have if you could interview one of the Trump jurors.
Right.
And also, since he has intervened as her spokeshuman, questions for Stormy Daniels' husband. We'll risk those questions because I have a question for him.
Oh, I can't wait.
So we'll take your questions, those two hypotheticals, if you had the opportunity, after we hear from David Kolsak. David, thanks for joining us.
Good morning. I'm going to go a little far field here because it's been so heavy with this Trump thing. So I'm going to talk about something just interesting. I saw a documentary a couple days ago, and it really made me think. It was on Rumble, and it was called Old World Order. The movie's a really entertaining one about all kinds of things from old technology and architecture, but it really asks, how did all these big, old, ornate buildings get there? Were there, how were these grand buildings built with no technology, no power tools, no civil engineers, no cranes? We'll get back to that. So I frequently drive along 294 from the Wisconsin border all the way around the city, and I noticed all these new buildings popping up. The Allstate campus near me was just torn down, and in its place is a giant group of what look to be concrete trucking logistics centers. Have you seen those? What's funny to me is that they're everywhere. They're out throughout Illinois, Wisconsin, and Indiana from what I've seen, but they're really everywhere. They tore down a really nice-looking campus at Allstate and put these ugly concrete buildings that seem to be available for lease. I'm not sure what they're used for, but I bet it's something to do with distribution of products sold on Amazon. The buildings are ugly. They're dystopian. They're almost as bad as the wind farms you see in the countryside. I guess my point is that we build ugly things these days. I think that we've been doing that for at least a century, and we seem to have lost the ability to make things that are uplifting, beautiful, and aesthetically pleasing. We have straight, big skyscrapers that are giant steel structures with imposing facades and windows. Not a lot of ornate structures have been built, but if you look around, you'll find buildings like Holy Name Cathedral, the Wrigley Building, Merchandise Mart, and the Field Museum, to name a few, that seem really out of place and built in another time by really skilled people. In contrast to that, I took my family on an Italian vacation last summer, and now Italy has its fair share of problems, but the thing that was so striking in comparison was the beautiful architecture and the structures that have seemed to have been there for centuries. As we toured the different towns and villages, it was super clean, and people were genuinely proud of their culture and their property. I kept walking into cathedrals in awe, thinking to myself, how in the heck did they build this and who did they build it for? It seemed impossible to actually have built structures at that time. But you don't have to go to Europe to see this. You can see this right here in Chicago. As I mentioned, some of these old buildings, the buildings are made out of stone and marble and granite, and they're huge. A common thing that you see in these old buildings is these giant doors that are like 20 feet tall. Why did they build doors where handles were too high to reach? Based on what we build today with advanced machinery and cranes and technology, it seems that it's impossible that we no longer build things like these old ones, and frankly, all over the world. Let's face it, our building skills have gotten a lot worse and not better. Maybe there were just stronger, better craftsmen back then who worked really fast. All you have to do is look around everywhere you go, though, and you start to notice a lot of buildings that look out of place from what you're able to build today. I normally just take these for granted, but recently I've started to look at them and wonder, you'd think that we built these magnificent buildings just a few hundred years ago with horse and buggy, that we'd be able to do unbelievable structures that are built to last. But that's not the truth of today. We seem to build houses and buildings that don't last and don't compare to what was built in the old world. So if you look at state and federal Capitol buildings, this is kind of funny. You look at the Capitol buildings all over Earth, they all look kind of the same. They have domes, they have pillars, and they're all similar, and they look Roman almost. They seem to build them with pride and with a purpose, with artistry and attention to detail. What happened? Why don't we get that today? They did all this with great building with mud roads and no power tools or cranes in just a couple of years, really? And I think that mankind really wants to build beautiful things. If we could build things like that today, I think we would. It's interesting also to think about the World's Fairs that used to take place. They build these magnificent cities that were massive in scale, and we're told they used plaster of Paris and wood so that they could be built in less than 2 years. Planning, designing, excavating, materially, ordering materials, skilled workers hired, all that in 2 years. We can't build things that fast. Mind you, they had to build all of that in Chicago anyway, over the two very, very cold winters in Chicago in 1892 and 93. They would usher in millions of visitors then in these temporary ornate structures, and they'd be safe, structurally sound, and secure. This was before television, and these World's Fairs would inform the public about all kinds of things like Columbus, transportation, health, medicine. New food products like Cracker Jack and PBR were introduced in that World's Fair in 1893. Anthropology, communications, and all those attendees would take the stories that they were told, and they'd take them back home, and they would tell stories of what they saw. So they would call those World's Fairs expositions, as they were exposing a story, establishing a narrative, and indoctrinating the public, much like a television today. Right here in Chicago in 1893, they built the White City in then just under 2 years by a guy that had no formal training in architecture. That was Daniel Burnham. Many of these fairs were done before electricity, and yet this one had moving sidewalks and amazing lighting with no overhead wires and amazing beauty. How did we lose that technology? Anyway, after the Chicago Exposition, they tore it all down with the exception of a few buildings. One of them was the Museum of Science and Industry. That building was the arts building in the World's Fair, and it's told that it was built out of temporary materials. But since the people of Chicago liked it so much, they tore it down and rebuilt it right in its place with the durable building that you see today. You could also go to the Field Museum and see some of those big doors yourselves. Was this building really created to house dinosaur replicas, or was it built for a different purpose? All I'm saying is that so many of these buildings seem out of place and built completely differently. It's also interesting to see construction photos of those World's Fairs being built. There's lots and lots of questions there. So anyway, the documentary that I watched a couple of days ago talks about old world order, and it does a deep dive into what once was, including architecture, history, World's Fairs, and even airships that are absolutely amazing to hear about airships. It's really interesting, hour and a half, and certainly worth a watch, even for you, Dan. It asks a lot of questions which really make you wonder. But even so, the movie will make you go, It's free to watch, so if you want to do that, go to Rumble and search for Old World Order. If you just want to watch the trailer, go to YouTube and search for Old World Order movie trailer. I really wish we still built things that were uplifting and inspiring. I think if we had more of that, we might feel differently about our world and each other. Have a great weekend and start looking around where you live and admire those big, old, magnificent buildings that seem out of place. They're everywhere, and once you see them, you can't unsee them. Really, how did they get there? It's hard to imagine.
Thank you, David. Appreciate it. Iowa Hawk had a good tweet returning to Trump, if we might.
Yes.
I haven't mentioned Iowa Hawk in a while. A very clever guy.
Right, yeah, he's brilliant.
This is the part of the 1953 sci-fi movie where the scientists realize the high voltage lines and atom bombs only make the monster bigger.
Oh.
Yeah, maybe.
I like that.
I hope he's right. It's unclear to me at this point. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. Questions, I mean, obviously talk about whatever you want, but questions if you had the opportunity to interview a Trump juror. Question if you had the opportunity to talk to Stormy Daniels' husband, who tells the world that she's still processing the verdict. I'm sure she is.
Well, CNN interviewed him last night on the phone, and you can kind of hear her rumbling around the background, and they tried so desperately to get him to hand the phone over to Stormy, and he just wouldn't do it.
Maybe she was busy doing two guys.
Hey there.
Al in Rosemont, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Hey, Dan and Amy, thank you for taking my call. I'm responding about this Joe Biden speech to Morehouse, that race bait and divide the country speech. I go on record, it's confidential, not controversial. George Floyd died secondary. He didn't want to get in that vehicle because he was a dope fiend and he didn't want to go down to that station to detox. That wasn't the first $100 bill that he passed around. And by the time they caught up with him, he did 4.5 years. And you talking about burn this country up over a dope fiend and cause all these billions of dollars of damages, and we should take it on the chin? That Mike Brown down there in Missouri working with them Pakistanis at the gas station selling heroin, the same thing. This is about the narcotics trade, and we got to now, I'm trying to petition to Black America. We got to root out the Joy Reeves, the D.L. Hugleys, the ambulance chasing Benjamin Crump, and the Al Charlatans of our community so we can breathe.
Yeah.
Trump 2024.
Al, let me ask you a question. I mean, so, does it insult you that George Floyd is hailed as some kind of hero, and the police officer we just mentioned who was murdered in the line of duty yesterday, Jamal Mitchell, a black gentleman, will this will be news for a day, and then it'll dissipate into the ether. You won't hear anybody of the likes that you're talking about hail Jamal Mitchell as an example to be emulated, somebody who gave his life and trying to protect and serve in Minneapolis.
It's embarrassing for us to go on record with for George Floyd. Why would we do? We have seen dope fiends die in alleys all around this country. Why is he different? We don't embrace martyrs like the Muslim terrorists because you die in the line fighting for something that you don't know about. I would never give George Floyd the time or day in this country to be celebrated.
Thanks for the call, Al.
And it makes me sick because, I've traveled a lot I drive places and go to different college campuses, and George Floyd is celebrated everywhere. And I think Martin Luther King Jr. would roll over in his grave in one place in Minnesota. His mural is up next to his. It's disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he also put a gun to a pregnant woman's belly, by the way.
Yeah, quite the rap sheet. Rick in Downers Grove.
Hey, good morning. With all the turmoil going on in the world and here, it feels my duty again to help people enjoy their summers. And I got a piece of advice for them that if they refer to this before they plan anything, they will have a much more enjoyable summer. And here it is.
Okay.
If it starts with taste of or ends with fest, you don't need to do it. So when you plan your outings, refer to that, and you're going to have a much more enjoyable summer.
If it ends with fest or if it starts with what?
No, if it starts with taste of or ends with fest.
Taste of, yeah. Starts with taste of or ends with fest, you don't need to do it. Yeah, that's pretty good advice. Thanks for the call, Rick. Stay away from big crowds. Yeah. That's my mantra.
You're not going to the Gay Pride Parade?
No, I stay away from big crowds, so maybe while I'm here, I'll go to Comiskey Park to see a Sox game. Because I don't have to worry about that there. Yeah, it's relaxing.
How are the White Sox doing, by the way?
I think they're still tracking to accrue the most losses of any team in Major League history. I think they're tracking for that now that they've lost 9 in a row.
Got a text message real quick.
Nice to have a historic team.
Black History Month, the display in our school was George Floyd next to MLK and Rosa Parks, Hank Aaron, Muhammad Ali, and Obama. Mm-hmm. I cringed.
Mm-hmm. Ed in Glen Ellen.
There's friends that will talk about this. He's a convicted felon, and he's a convicted felon, and I say we see it's a political witch hunt. Would any of these suits that were brought against Trump have seen the light of day if he was not running for office? I can almost guarantee you that none of them would have been brought against him because there wasn't from what I understand, almost everything has been addressed previously, and we're done with it. And the only reason they're brought is because of the political position that he's in.
That's right. Thanks for the call. I mean, they resuscitated charges. They had to reanimate past claims that had been passed over in terms of pursuit. There's no question. Other questions, though, that you have, and are you ready to stop being if you have been currently, are you ready to stop being a member of the silent majority?
Yep.
You know, the people with common decency and good sense, but who don't want to rock the boat in the neighborhood or at the school board meeting or at the country club. Are you ready to be more confrontational? Are you ready to stoke the revolt, a conversation we were having earlier in the show? Ron, Southside.
Hey, good morning, Dan. Hey, I want to follow up. Amy, when you were out last week, I had suggested that Donald Trump come to Chicago, and Dan asked me would I be willing to put him up for a couple of days. And I told him I had to check with my wife. I knew I played that tough guy role on the radio, but Dan, unfortunately, I couldn't get the clearance. She wouldn't approve it. But guess what? See, this is Friday. I want to end on a good note. You have total clearance, Dan.
I can stay.
She said Dan Prout can have total access to my cigars 10 minutes away from Harborside. So I just want you to know my wife gave you total clearance. And so, okay, that's just for you.
Thank you. It's nice to have a place to crash. You know, I'm no longer a resident. Thanks for the call, Ron. So nice to have a place. And 10 minutes from Harborside. I haven't played Harborside in a while.
I want to play Harborside so badly.
Play Harborside, go back to Ron's for a smoke and a drink.
Go to
and
Walmart there.
Some enlightened conversation. That sounds like a pretty good weekend.
See the Pullman factory.
I don't know if I'll go sightseeing. I just want to hang out with Ron and play some golf.
National Park, excuse me. Yeah. And Dan, don't forget, it was you who said earlier in the show that former President Trump is not a convicted felon, but a justice-impacted person.
That's right.
Okay?
Yeah,
I'm tweeting that out, and then I'm
giving
credit where credit is.
You can call him a convicted felon in other states, but
not,
it's
verboten
in Illinois.
Yep, here in Illinois.
What was your question for the juror? A juror, if you had to interview, if you could interview a Trump juror?
A lot of questions, like, of course, Joseph Moreno, the former federal prosecutor, said, what do you understand the crime to be? But also, have any of you ever voted Republican in your lives? Also, how did you understand or perceive Michael Cohen, since he is he's a liar, he's been disbarred. I mean, why? How could they see him or Stormy Daniels as credible witnesses?
Mm-hmm.
And what they made of Stormy Stormy Daniels made it sound like she was raped by Trump. Where in 2011 and in 2000, I don't know what year it was, but she said this was not a Me Too moment. It was consensual, and I went up to his hotel room.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And all of a sudden, she's spying in his medicine cabinet, knows what medicine he has. She's an absolute disgrace of a human being.
My question for Stormy Daniels' husband, if I could interview him, would be, is it really like throwing a hot dog down a hallway? Just curious. Glenn in Orlando, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Yeah, good morning. Happy Friday. I'm just in the process of getting my T-shirt printed that I'm voting for a convicted felon.
There you go. Let's make some money off of this.
Thanks for the call, Glenn.
Can I donate to Trump's campaign?
Can you donate to Trump's campaign?
Yeah.
What do you mean, can you?
I mean, can I?
For now, I think you're still allowed to until they prohibit donating to his campaign. That might be next. You better get that donation in.
All right.
Owen in Willowbrook.
Hi, Dan and Amy. Hey, I think the best reply I've heard so far was Brent Tolman, who's a former Fed, and he was on Fox Business News yesterday, and he said one of the options that Trump's legal team can do is go to the Supreme Court. They probably won't hear the case, but they could probably put in an emergency hearing for a stay on the sentencing hearing, which could tie up Merchan's hands for a while. I want to kind of get your thought on that.
Yeah, thanks for the call, Owen. We actually spoke with Joseph Moreno, former federal prosecutor, at the top of the 7 o'clock hour about that very issue. We've been talking about that. The question about getting the Supreme Court to review this case straight from state court, which is unusual but not impossible within their purview. And that's exactly what Moreno said. I mean, let's get the appeal on 5th, 6th, maybe 14th Amendment grounds to the Supreme Court, and with plenty of time before they adjourn at the end of June, and see if they'll take up the case, stay the sentencing that's scheduled for July 11th, and adjudicate the matter. And frankly, maybe overturn the conviction straight away on those constitutional grounds and short circuit what's going on in New York. But we don't know. We don't know. But we suspect and expect that the Trump legal team will file appeals concurrently, one at the state level in New York and one with the Supreme Court.
Oh, we have some text message. I don't know if I can read that one. Another one. My juror question. Are you Facebook friends with Merrick Garland?
Yeah, okay. What's the one you can't read?
It sounds, nah.
Okay, all right.
It's about Stormy Daniels and clockwise or counterclockwise.
Okay, all right. Yeah, editorial discretion.
Okay.
Rich in Indian Head Park.
Good morning, Dan. Good morning, Amy. What I wanted to say is I got two things. The first thing is the statement that Bragg's made that he treated this case as any other case. Well, you got the President of the United States who's on trial and was convicted of a crime, and you're gonna say that you treated it the same way that you would somebody being sucker punched on the street or hijacking your car? That's such a ridiculous statement. It's a joke.
Yeah.
And as far as go ahead, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. I mean, they're going after Daniel Penny, and they don't go after carjackers.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I mean. That's why it's not the same. It's a ridiculous statement. And the next thing is there's a question I would like to ask a juror is, did you actually vote that he was convicted on all 34 counts? There was nothing that you had doubts of? Or are you just a Trump hater?
Thanks for the call, Rich.
Well, wasn't it really just one count, but 34 different interpretations of the same
thing?
It's so stupid.
It is just like any other case. But Alvin Bragg did treat this just like any other case. He made a decision based on politics, which is the same thing he does when he doesn't prosecute violent felons or he under-prosecutes them, and prosecutes someone like Daniel Penny. It's politics. These are political decisions, not legal ones. And that's what he did with the Trump case. Joe in Arlington Heights.
Good morning. Of course, you guys have awesome coverage. I just want to amplify what you were saying earlier in the show, Dan. We, or those of us who thought that the lawyers on the jury were not there for a purpose, are naive. Those individuals who thought Trump had a chance of being found not guilty are naive. Those people who think that they don't have more in store, including trying to angle a way to put him in jail if possible, you're naive. The fact of the matter is, they have a lot more up their sleeve. Do you think they didn't steal the last election? You're naive, and you're going to get it again. The honest people are going to be duped once again by the very corrupt and evil.
Thanks for the call, Joe. Tom in Barrington.
Good morning, Dan and Amy. How are you?
Good.
I'm sad today, but I'll
get
through it.
Dan,
mm-hmm.
I'm so disappointed to hear you're not going to the parade. You told me 6 months ago we're going, and now after hearing that, I'm putting my assless lederhosen up back in the closet.
Well, I think that's where
Dan doesn't do parades.
I think that's where they belong, to be honest with you, Tom. Maybe we could.
Right. I know we talked.
Yeah.
We talked about doing Thelma and Louise, but we backed out last minute. So, all right. Listen.
Yeah.
You said something about, are you going to be a part of the solution? Are you gonna stand up? And that is so important. I got to tell you, that's everything. Right now, we're all running through our minds. Do I step out on LinkedIn? Do I step out? Do I step up, step out? But there are different ways to get behind it. If usually it's a time or money equation. Now you got to add risk. The sort of socioeconomic risk to the equation. But you can donate and support great organizations I know there's Moms for America is doing a 10-state campaign where they're going into urban centers and talking to moms and registering and getting folks to vote. There's other organizations you can get behind and quietly, donate. And also, maybe we should you guys put together a Trump rally, and we'll get behind it 100%. Let's get out there and show our support. Anyway, great show, great coverage, as the other guy said. You guys have a great weekend.
Thanks for the call, Tom. Well,
remember he was going to come here, and then he was here, but he couldn't get down to the campaign site because people were protesting so heavily.
What are you talking about? Trump at USC?
Yeah.
Yeah.
USC.
So I was at River Forest Country Club yesterday when the verdict came down, and we were talking to the waiter, and he's totally on our side with stuff, and then this older couple was walking out, and the old bag said to the waiter, "It's a great day in America today." And so that's a question, at the club, for example, just as an example of the venue, and I'm not a member, so it was.
I don't know if they're gonna let you back in now.
Well, I didn't say anything. But because we were watching and still processing, and I sort of heard, and I asked him, "What did she just say?" But he was.
Did he respond?
He was completely gobsmacked by the guilty verdict. He couldn't believe.
I know.
A lot of guys were
in shock.
But it's that's a moment where do you say something to that old bag? I mean, that's what I'm talking about. I'm not, I'm talking like I have to qualify this. I'm not talking about violence. Do you say something, and it doesn't have to be profane, but do you say something to the old bag at the club, on the block, at the supermarket? Or do you let them get away with their out and proud ignorance? I've said this before, and very few want to take me up on it, but shame is a powerful tool. And they sort of they've shamed so many, the left has, because of their control of all the mediating institutions in society, civic and cultural. And so they shame you into silence because of the socioeconomic costs that Tom from Barrington was just talking about. And it's like that you're putting your status at risk if you out yourself as a Trump supporter. And so you can't say something to the old bag or to some other pea hat in one of your other social circles at one of the other places that you are a member, a participant. Are you going to push back? Or are you going to let them repeat the convicted felon? We can't have a convicted felon in the White House talking point incessantly in all those places, and let them believe it's a great day for America without challenge.
Local media yesterday, they went outside of Trump Tower to get people's reaction, and they pretty much said the same thing. It's a great day in America, and then one D-bag's like, and now he's not going to be president.
Yeah, of course they did. And so what does anybody say to that? What does anybody say to the guy on the sidewalk being interviewed by one of the comm shops for the Jacobin ruling class? Somebody say, you know what? You're completely wrong, and you're furthering this descent into madness.
And they couldn't find one Chicagoan that said this was not...
Forget the media. What do you think the media is? They couldn't find one Chicagoan. They're trying to be fair and balanced?
Try to be fair and balanced. Not anymore. Everybody was happy yesterday.
Cynthia, Palos Park.
Good morning, Dan and Amy. Okay, my question to any of the jurors is, what is going to be the title of your upcoming book, and how fast can you get a ghostwriter and get the thing published?
There you go.
My second point is, I thought it very interesting when I heard this morning that Pritzker is not going to be the keynote speaker at the Dems convention in Chicago, but in Milwaukee. And my mind immediately went to, no wonder, because I feel like at the Chicago location, they are going to roll out Michelle Maibel, and that will be our replacement for Joe Biden.
No,
what do you think?
Not gonna happen. Nope.
No.
Nope. She is not
Thanks for the call,
going to run
Cynthia.
for any office ever.
It's
Whoever
not.
started that rumor, I don't.
We've been talking about it since 2016.
I know.
Just won't stop. Linda and Glen Ellen.
Yeah, hey, Dan and Amy. I know we're feeling a little sad today, but I just want to bring a little encouragement to everybody. I want to give a shout out to my daughter, Ashley, who graduated from Concordia, Wisconsin. We're having a party for her this weekend. Her generation, she's going to be a Christian school teacher, and her generation is going to save this country, and we're just going to keep praying for everybody. We're going to stay encouraged, and we're going to continue to pray for President Trump and everybody. So just try to stay encouraged because the fight's not over. All right. Love your show, guys.
Thanks for the call, Linda.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's an interesting piece, actually, about this this generation. Like we saw the frat guys at UNC. I don't know. This may be a little bit of wishful thinking, over extrapolating from the anecdotal, but a good piece by Mike Solano or PirateWires.com. The Revolution of the Proletariat, and it's essentially built in part Nick Sandmann. He goes back to Nick Sandmann, but then the UNC guys and frat guys on other campuses too that push back against the model Hamas. He writes, courage from the college campus to the most powerful boardrooms in tech is attractive to most people, but it's especially attractive to young men who generally reward true courage with their loyalty. The revolution is here. It's a revolution of the proletariat, and he offers several examples. And it's interesting because there is some thread of this going up and down the generations, including what Jerry Seinfeld recently said in an interview he did with Barry Weiss of the Free Press.
As a man, can I
Are you
say
sure
that?
you are? Are
yeah.
you?
I've
I
always wanted to be.
I didn't ask your pronouns before we
I've
began.
always wanted to be a real man. I never made it. But I really thought when I was in that era, again, it was JFK, it was Muhammad Ali, it was Sean Connery, Howard Cosell. You can go all the way down there. That's a real man. I want to be like that someday.
Mm.
Well, no. I never really grew up. You don't want to as a comedian because it's a childish pursuit. But I miss a dominant masculinity. Yeah, I get the toxic thing. I get it. But still, I like a real man.
So
Maybe
do a lot of ladies.
Maybe there are real men coming up to replace the pea hats and the wealthy enclaves around places like Chicago. Greg in LaGrange.
Hey, how you doing? I have absolutely no regard for friendship in this area now because I just think that you either stand by principle and ethics and morals or you don't. And I don't care about these faux comments about you're going to vote for a convicted felon. It's all contrived and it's all lawfare. We know what the other side is. Remember, they're the ones that force our children to go against their parents to change their gender and go after parents that try to protect their kids, or they try to put shots in your arm, or they allow spy balloons to fly over your country, or they let open borders policy to flood your country with people that they have absolutely no idea who have intent or not intent to destroy this country. Or they do things economically that make absolutely no sense and do the exact 180 of what they say they do. These people are evil, and it's like Bonhoeffer said. You want to argue with stupid people, you're wasting your time because they just shrug off every fact, every situation that you can present evidence and receipts for. They listen to nothing. They're as complicit, if not worse, than the evil people.
Yeah.
You have to keep pushing back.
Thanks for the call, Greg. And you have to make examples of those people publicly, I would say. Chuck and Delavan.
Hey, thanks for naming my band, Dan. Busy doing two guys. Get to the Williams Day Farmers Market. I'm getting signatures over here today. There's a guy in Wisconsin that looks like Santa Claus that has 2,700 signatures Only 2,000 needed to get his name on the ballot. Go to Magpies tonight. It's going to be great. Lunch Money Bullies, one of the best bands in Wisconsin. It's going to be a riot. So get out and do something.
Thanks for the call, Chuck. Lunch Money Boys. I like that band name.
Yeah. Today it's going to be warm, a high of 80 degrees. It is now 9 a.m. WIND, Chicago.
This is a Fox News alert. Former President Trump is going to speak out. I'm Dave Anthony. An hour from now in New York City, the day after being convicted at his first criminal trial.
Former President Trump will hold a news conference here in the lobby of Trump Tower in Midtown Manhattan in what arguably is the biggest, most important campaign event he's held at Trump Tower since he came down those escalators in June of 2015 to launch his presidential candidacy.
Now, after he was found guilty on 34 charges of falsifying records related to payments to keep an alleged affair quiet before that 2016 election, former President Trump called it a disgrace, and his supporters agree.
Yesterday was a sad day for America. You had a partisan witch hunt in New York.
So I think people look at that. The whole thing is nuts.
Senators Tom Cotton and Marco Rubio. House Speaker Mike Johnson tells Fox.
This is diminishing the American people's faith in our system of justice itself.
The Manhattan District Attorney who led the Trump case, Alvin Bragg, said he did his job following the facts.
The only voice that matters is the voice of the jury, and the jury has spoken.
Fox's Jackie Heinrich reports from the White House.
We haven't heard anything from the president himself, at least yet. The White House counsel's office only said we respect the rule of law and have no further comment. But the Biden campaign is fundraising off the verdict, warning that Trump supporters are energized by it.
Now, the Trump campaign just reported they raked in almost $35 million in post-verdict fundraising. We got an inflation update this morning, a gauge the Federal Reserve is watching.